Welcome to America's Day at the Races, brought to you by America's Best Racing. Got some great racing to bring you. Races 7, 10 at Tampa Bay Downs, as well as races 5 through 10 at Oaklawn Park, and of course the feature race today at Oaklawn Park, the Poinsettia. I am Richard Migliori, and pleased to be joined by Jonathan Kinchin. And Jonathan, we're waiting on our man Chris Griffin, so I'm just filling in for a few moments, but a bunch of scratches in the Poinsettia. Looks like it makes Spirit Wind's job a bit easier, your favorite.
Yeah, Spirit Wind, who we were fortunate enough to see up at Saratoga this summer, and she was able to win in wire-to-wire fashion. I think that she is one of those horses that probably likes to look around and not see too many else in there that are going to give her a hard time when it comes to her making the front. I also think that she'll appreciate the 5.5. Richie, I don't have to tell you this, but in this country, obviously 6 furlongs is the most common distance. We don't have a lot of stakes races run at 5.5, but I can tell you what, Spirit Wind will likely appreciate that half furlong shorter.
Yeah, she is speed on speed, and I like watching this, and I think it points something out, Jonathan. Mike Smith aboard this day in the Honorable Miss. Look at how much slack is in his reins. He's riding over the loose rein. That speaks to a horse that maybe has a little bit of a breathing issue. You don't want that bit up in their mouth, change the position of their head and maybe inhibit their breathing at all. Fernando Yarrow picks up the mount today, and that's one of those things that you have to pay attention to as a rider when you watch replays.
And look, she is one of those horses that when she's run her best, she's been able to kind of be comfortable, not to be arguing with her rider. And it seems as if this is a situation in which where she should be able to do that. She's taking the blinkers off for Safi Joseph, so maybe one that they want to be able to relax a little bit earlier. I don't think they want to take anything away from her from a speed standpoint. I just think maybe just hey, let's just take it easy here at the start of this race.
Yeah, breathe, right? You don't have to give it to us all at once. Give it to us a little more incrementally. But going 5.5, I know when I was riding, I wouldn't be waiting on anybody.
No, and I never rode, but that's exactly what I would do too.
Well, we got a horse drawn down towards the inside. Rafael Bejarano aboard in Fibber. And Fibber is pretty versatile. She can win from just off the pace, or she can make the running. I don't see her making the lead here, though, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at her past performances. She's got a lot of 7 furlong races recently that she's run well. So this is a pretty drastic change, a furlong and a half shorter for her. She'll be finishing, that's for sure. And like you mentioned, she's tactical enough that she could hopefully work out some sort of a trip from the inside. She's still going to want to not get too far behind, but she could be finishing if, like you pointed out, Spirit Wind maybe has a problem relaxing on the front end or doesn't get that kind of loose, uncontested pace.
But one thing, when we talk about Spirit Wind, she does have one horse that stayed in the race out on the outside, Royal Spa, who at times can show some speed, but not the kind of speed that Smart Wind has. So I think, at least from the position, she's the outermost speed.
Right, and then Royal Spa has, if you look at her pace figures, not really that quick. She's got a couple where she is, but consistently, she just does not seem like she's as fast as the 7 Spirit Wind.
Yeah, so we got plenty to go on, and I guess we got a big name making his return to the races the day after Christmas. Your Kentucky Derby winner, Mystic Dan, will be competing in the Malibu. We'll talk more about that when we come back.
her off the turn. Mystic Dan cut the corner and grabbed the lead right at the top of the stretch. Sierra Leone and Forever Young are shoulder to shoulder with a furlong to go, but they've got 2 lengths to make up on Mystic Dan, who's begging for the wire. Forever Young and Sierra Leone keep on coming. Sierra Leone, Forever Young, and Mystic Dan. A wild finish. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Mystic Dan, a brave and game winner of the Kentucky Derby. That bold, decisive move along the inside by Brian Hernandez cut the corner and held off the rush of both Forever Young and your Breeders' Cup Classic winner, Sierra Leone.
Yeah, I mean, look, he was. It was a perfect storm for him that day. He got a beautiful ride by Brian Hernandez. Kenny McPeak had him ready to, with a perfect circumstance, to pull off one of the greatest feats in North American sports, which is winning the Kentucky Derby. I'm not overly enthralled with how good Mystic Dan really is. He was good on that day, and that's all that matters, and no one will ever take that from him. But I'll be very, very interested to see where he's going to show up next.
Well, now, going to start back on 7 furlongs in the Malibu Stakes. You'd have to go back to 1986. Ferdinand, the last Kentucky Derby winner to win the Malibu Stakes, and before that, 1980, in Spectacular Bid. So Mystic Dan trying to, get into some lofty company there, and he has won at 5.5 furlongs when he broke his maiden. So he possesses speed. But Jonathan, isn't that one characteristic that all good horses share, that they possess speed? It's how they learn to use that speed.
Absolutely. I mean, you'll see horses that can win going 5.5 all the time, and then when they get older, you think to yourself, how did that horse ever win going that short? The problem is, or the thing is that they're talented. They are fast. What makes great horses that can win the Kentucky Derby good is they can be fast for a very long time. That's what allows them. It's not that they all excel just because it's the 10 furlongs. They're all fast horses, talented horses, and Mystic Dan's going to have his hands full with a bunch of horses that are going to be playing a game that I think they want to play. And I think some would argue that Mystic Dan's game might not be this anymore, but he is a Derby winner. He is talented, and if he gets enough pace to close into, he could be rolling late.
I think you make a great point. Mystic Dan is going to have to play the other horse's game. That's what they want to sprint. This is a starting point for them. I'm sure they want to win, but it is a jumping-off point, if you will.
Yeah, I think it's a jumping-off point likely to those big races for lots of money. Some of them run in the desert next year for older horses, and this is a good spot to try to do that, and also to put a stamp on his year as a 3-year-old. As a winner of a Kentucky Derby and a Malibu, it's very impressive.
Yeah, pretty impressive resume there, and we got horses in the paddock coming up at Tampa Bay Downs. We'll be heading to Oldsmar, Florida when we come back.
The sun shines bright on Caraconte. His first crops of racing age are showing brilliance on the racetrack with a high percentage of stakes winners. His versatility is evidenced by winners on all surfaces across the globe.
Spandarella could not have been more impressive.
She feels more than pretty. She feels fantastic.
It is all she feels pretty. The sun shines bright on this value sire. Caraconte, standing at Gainesway.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
Idiomatic in front, 16th to go in the Juddmonte colors. Florent Giroux aboard. Idiomatic to win the Grade 1 Juddmonte Spinster.
Idiomatic is taking the lead. Clippier trying to squeeze through, but it's going to be Idiomatic to win.
And Idiomatic just opens back up here with every stride. No catching. Idiomatic winning the Juddmonte Spinster for Florent Giroux.
Curlin, the classic sire.
And welcome back to America's Day at the Races here on FS2. You see the beautiful track. That's Aqueduct, South Ozone Park, as we are in our New York studios. And we got great racing action down in Oldsmar, Florida. We've got great racing action in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Chris Griffin, joined by Jonathan Kinchin. Richard Migliore, just a little tardy there. Looks nice out there, but there's a little snow on the ground. But happy to be with you guys. We've got some great sequences coming up, and we're right on top of Tampa's 7th race coming up there, pick 4.
Yeah, we've got a nice snow cover behind us, and I love the contrast, the white of the snow in the infield against the tobacco brown of the racing surface. And I am so happy you're here. I don't want to host.
So let's get right into it, though, guys. We got a $25,000 claimer, and we're going to go that good distance, that kind of specialist distance of 7 furlongs. Field of 7 in here, and we've got the favorite down toward the inside, or no, favorite towards the outside there in the 6. What do you think at 2-1? Jonathan, I'll go for you first.
Yeah, the horse was running for 35 last time. He's been competitive. He's been running at 7 furlongs and has always been right there kind of in the mix. So you'd figure the foundation will be there for a horse like this. But when you're looking at these types of races, I've always found the biggest puzzle is to be intent of the trainer and the owner. What are we doing here? Why are these horses running in this position for this price? Are they trying to get rid of them? Are they trying to win? And that's always the trickiest puzzle for me when it comes to these types of races.
Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting race because there's not a tremendous amount of speed signed on for a one-turn 7 furlong race, and the 6 Lace Up, your favorite, he might wind up being the speed just by default here.
And historically at Tampa, you don't always want to be on the inside. It just seems to be a better place, in that kind of 3-4 path, circling, stalking, and it feels like the favorite in here, Lace Up the 6, is going to get that type of trip.
All right, we're going to see what happens here at this 7 furlong distance at $25,000, non-3 lifetime. And you take a look at some of the riders that we talked about. And even looking at the 2 at 5-1, Samuel Marin, we talked about him yesterday. He won that turf race on the front end yesterday, but seems to be the top rider on the circuit so far. He's currently sitting at 5-1.
I've really been impressed with Samuel Marin. He has raised his game. He rides the turf extremely well, but he just rides a good race in general. And I think he's continually improved.
All right, we'll see what happens here. It's the start of their pick 4. It's Tampa Bay Downs, Oldsmar, Florida. Jason Beam has the action, 7 furlongs in race number 7. Co-favorites right now look like the number 1, Kateri Vizcaya, and the number 6, Lace Up. We'll see what happens here in today's 7 at Tampa.
Camacho looking for a race-to-race double. And Ever Do It, Huber Villagomez to the outside stall. Ever Do It goes forward there in the gate. And the race is on. Sam Stormy toward the inside was out well, as was Kateri Vizcaya, so the 2 inside runners are quickest. Lace Up from the outside was away in 3rd, but Kateri Vizcaya going to lead them as they run toward the main track. Sam Stormy 2nd out wide, Lace Up is 3rd. Ever Do It moves up from the 4th position, then comes Bahamian Native, who's 5th, and 4.5 off the top. It's a break of 2 more back to Kentaro, General Battle Axe. Those 2 are at the back. As up front, Kateri Vizcaya clears it off a length and a half. Kateri Vizcaya leads them up the back stretch through a 22-4 opening quarter mile. Back in that 2nd spot is Sam Stormy. Lace Up 3 deep, going to be 4 wide here for Ever Do It as they run toward that far turn, but only 2.5 separate those top 4. It's a break of 2 more back to Bahamian Native, who's given a little bit of a push from 5th. Another space of 4 back to Kentaro, nothing from General Battle Axe. Around that far turn, just under 3/8 of a mile left to go. Kateri Vizcaya, Sam Stormy dialing up the pressure now after that 45-4 half mile. Kateri Vizcaya still narrowly in front of Sam Stormy. They are a length and a half clear of Lace Up and Ever Do It. It's now 5 lengths back to the rest as they come to the top of the stretch. Kateri Vizcaya, Sam Stormy, they're off the turn pretty much as one. Kateri Vizcaya down on the inside, Sam Stormy on the outside. They're 4 lengths in front of Lace Up, Ever Do It, and a late run coming from Kentaro from the back. Final 16th to go. Kateri Vizcaya fending off Sam Stormy thus far. Kateri Vizcaya starting to edge back clear. Kateri Vizcaya 2-1, going to go on to win it here by 2 in the end. Second ended up very close there between Kentaro and Sam Stormy. Ever Do It was 4th. 5th was Lace Up.
Trainer Juan Carlos Avila there picked up a victory yesterday. We saw on yesterday's show, and then he does it right here again today. Kateri Vizcaya, the gray, a 3-year-old by anchor down, had some pressure, especially through the lane here from Sam Stormy, who we talked about, but kind of extended that margin once again in the stretch drive.
When you get a horse that has been running a steady diet of 2-turn races, a mile and a 16th, a mile and an 1/8, and they make the lead going 7 furlongs, that foundation those long races gave him, you know they're not going to tire. He just kept finding.
We got race number 5 right on top of a post parade here as we take a look at the 5th race. It's for the 2-year-olds. We're taking a look at these 2-year-olds maidens. Start with the boys. The number 1 is Secret Legend.
Look, I'm just hoping that Matoli's a great stallion. I loved him so much as a horse. I find myself rooting for all of his offspring.
The 2 is 8-1.
Yeah, taking a little bit of money, comes in with a good steady work tab. Like that last gate work on December 8th.
JK, how about the 3?
No money last time, no running last time.
The 4 is your current favorite, even money right now. I Got Game.
For our friend and colleague Tom Amos, this horse comes back with a makeover. Blinkers on, first-time gelding, and a horse that should be forward.
Scratch the 5. The 6 is a big price.
Yeah, a North Dakota bred. Don't see that too often, and not taking any money on the board.
The 7th is Stormy at Midnight.
It's too big of a price for me. This horse has taken money and has run well enough in 3 starts, has the experience edge on a lot of these.
And currently 5-2, your second choice. That's the 8 with Keith Asmussen aboard.
Yeah, first-time starter from the Asmussen family. By Vacoma, terrific first-crop sire, and the fact that he's taking money is meaningful.
Showing about 6 minutes until race number 5, and of course we've got to send it over to Hot Springs, Arkansas, somebody that we've got right there on site, Paul LaDuca, for the first time this afternoon. Taking a look at this 5th race and the 2-year-olds. What's going on, Paul? What are you liking here?
Well, nothing much, Chris. How you guys doing? Jonathan and Mig as well. You know what? I thought it was a tricky race, right? Obviously, I Got Game is the horse to be completely on paper, and opened up at about 2 or 3 to 5 for, like you guys were saying, our colleague Tom Amos. Complete change here. Blinkers going on, first time gelding. This horse has been bet multiple times. Okay, so and has competed very well. When you just look at the numbers, you're wondering to yourself, can any of these first time starters really match him, considering he's had 5 starts, and maybe we've seen what we've seen of him, but I have a feeling he's just going to be really tough to beat. And I think the other part about it is, guys, he gets out of the 1 hole. I mean, he's been in the 1 hole the last 2 times, trapped down there, so maybe getting into the middle of the racetrack will help. Now, the outside horse, the 8, the first-time starter for Steve Asmussen. We've seen these Vacomas just do tremendous first time out, 23%. As of the printing of the daily racing form. This one for L&N Racing and Keith Asmussen aboard for his father. I tell you what, it's starting to get hard to tell between Keith and Eric which one is in the saddle, but this horse has got steady works, and Keith had a horse off the layoff in, I want to say, race number 2 or 3 that won nicely, that he had kind of steady work pattern like this. The other horse for me would be the 1, Secret Legend. The Robert Klein and Kelsey R, for a lot of people don't know, they've been lifetime partners for years. But in the state of Arkansas, if they were to get married, Kelsey would only be able to ride for Robert Klein. Crazy rule, but there's crazy rules everywhere. So that's why you don't see the same last name. But I thought this horse's debut on the turf was good. The horse come in here, worked pretty well. And the fact that this horse is 6-1 against some, really polished trainers, and I'm not saying, because I know Robert Klein knows what he's doing, and he does very well over in Iowa when he leaves here. But I have a feeling the 1 could be a runner in here and might run. But they're all going to have to beat the 4 in here. I Got Game.
Thank you very much, Paul. Taking a look at this 5th race, and also a little tidbit there from a relationship angle. Who knew? Who knew some of those quirky rules out there in horse racing?
Paul is on top of it, and it's such a tough place to handicap. Paul has done a great job with that at Oaklawn Park.
No, it's and I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point, Richie, but that's a tough place because so many horses come from so many different places. We get lucky here in New York. There's a horse running here. He's probably running at Saratoga, and he's probably running at Aqueduct last winter and spring. And it can be much more complicated there because they just come from everywhere to try to judge who's who.
Taking a look at these 2-year-olds and taking a look at the number 4 in I Got Game, and now you see some changes, right? You see a gelding, you see the blinkers on, and a horse that's taking a good amount of action right now at that even money, and you're taking a look at the last effort here from I Got Game, and this is back at Churchill Downs, that 5th, 3. Is this enough to say the connections warrant favoritism? But now with all the changes, does that give you some questions, or the fact that you stay at this maiden special weight, maybe not as many questions?
Especially with the gelding, Chris, it feels like they're thinking that this horse has more to give. A lot of times they'll geld a horse to get more focus from them. A byproduct of it is it lightens a horse up. It usually helps him stay sounder. And he's run some good races. I mean, his buyer figures are good at Churchill Downs. And out of all the horses coming from different jurisdictions, 20 winners so far at this early out of 59 races run at Oaklawn Park. came from Churchill Downs.
That was a 2 starts back effort there on September 19th. That second beaten ahead. JK, taking a look at a bit of a price. If you're not going to play the favorite in here, where did you end up going, and who can give you, a decent price here in this fifth?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 4 I got Game is the most likely winner, but not the best horse to bet in here at even money. I think the 7 Stormy at Midnight is interesting. A horse that has shown a little bit more speed as the races have gone along. This horse has been single digits in all of the starts, which shows there's at least some talent there, some barn expectation in the morning. Now, that's been at Remington, and now they're over here in what one would consider probably deeper waters. But I like the draw, and I like the experience. So often, experience goes such a long way in these races with talented horses making their first start. We see it all the time. You see the quote-unquote next fastest horse in the world show up at even money in a race and just need to kind of figure some things out. And a horse that has experience that has just kind of been ho-hum around there ends up getting the win.
Taking a look at the 4 and the 7, the most experienced of the runners, but you kind of take a look, Meg, when you were looking at a first-time starter, might draw some interest and also taking some money on the board. That's the 8.
Yeah, I like the 8 Pine Tree Rocket. I like the work pattern. I'm more about spacing of works. I like the fact that this horse is by Vacoma. Vacoma got 22% first-time starting winners in his first crop, 21% winners overall. So that's a really strong statistic for me, and from really good connections, preparing a young horse to be ready for their first start. This is one of those cases, Jonathan, with Pine Tree Rocket. I'll know when the gates open. If this horse breaks with run and intention on his mind, he's going to run a good race.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the Vacoma with his first crop. Game Winner also with the 4. I got Game with his first crop as well. And in Game Winner, I actually was looking at his past performances the other day. He was much better than he got credit for. He never kind of, after the Breeders' Cup, he never got that big victory again in one of those big races, but he had excuses in the Derby. He had excuses in lots of his other situations. He easily could have been an undefeated horse, and being a son of Candy Ride, you'd like to think that his horses will probably run as well.
Is there anything to think 2-year-olds, we're getting towards the end of December now, and obviously when they change to 3-year-olds, is there any rush from these connections, or do we feel like these are late developing 2-year-olds? I mean, do we take that into account at all, the time of year? Because it seems like if you got the real good ones, they're going to be unleashed pretty early, those 2-year-olds. So what do we think of them later in the year, like in the month of December?
I think it's just a very individualistic thing where, a horse just doesn't come to hand early enough. You've got to be patient. What was that old adage? You can, pay me now or pay me later, right? It's, one of those things. And the Asmussens are not horsemen that are going to rush a horse into a situation. So Pine Tree Rocket probably just a little slower coming to hand. But from a sire that has thrown precocious runners.
And we heard Paul talking about the connection, but Kelsey Haar riding the number 1 turf try. You see that start over at Canterbury, which was a 3rd, beating a length and a quarter. So pretty good debut effort. Needed the time off. Hasn't been seen since September. Currently sits at 6-1. Was there anything that we kind of take a look at and we like there?
Well, I think when you look at the horse like that took some money on debuted going 5 on the turf, and now switches to the dirt. I don't think that sometimes it's not necessarily that they want the turf, it's that they want the 5 furlongs as that first starting point. So there's a possibility that now just getting to the dirt, being a son of Matoli, you'd like to think that the dirt's not going to be an issue here. And then to your earlier question, I think it's a great one about what to expect from 2-year-olds in December like this. I think that the only difference between a 2-year-old in December and a 2-year-old in July is who was hurt and who was ready, right? I think the ones that I think that everyone gets a 2-year-old and they want them to be ready early, and if they can be, to get that good foundation and take advantage of those great 2-year-old races across the country. The only reason that they don't is they're probably just a little bit behind. Maybe they have a shin, maybe they have something out of the sail.
Sure.
And then this is just when they come around, and with everyone dreaming Derby, you sometimes want to get that start into them, leading up into the spring to get them ready for the Derby.
Taking a look right now, acting up in behind the gate. That's the 6th, the North Dakota bred. You said you don't see a lot of them in the sire in spite of the dog, but what do we know about North Dakota breds?
I honestly don't know a lot. The first thing that came to my mind, was cowboys riding on the plains when you speak about a North Dakota bred, but a good horse can come from any place. Obviously, this horse is a reluctant loader into the starting gate. Gate crew was patient. They got him in. Getting back to the one briefly, guys, the one Secret Legend who had that turf start. The mare was a stakes winner on dirt, and she had 2 other runners to start, and they were both winners on dirt. So by Matoli, the pedigree says the surface should be fine.
All right, we'll find out what happens in here. Getting set to load the 2 outside runners there. It looks like Pine Tree Rocket towards the outside, that first-time starter for Steve Asmussen, Keith Asmussen. It's Matt Dinnerman with the call at Oaklawn.
We're ready to go. And we're off. Bontemps stumbled at the break and drops to the rear. Stormy at Midnight on the lead with Pine Tree Rocket. These two share the top spot here. Gateskeeper from the inside moving up to be fairly close to the pace. Secret Legend off the contentious tempo in 4th. Then I Got Game, the favorites 5th, 2 off the pace. Another 7 back to Bontemps, and Dunavetta has been outrun as they hit the half-mile pole. A contentious battle on the front end. The first-time starter Gateskeeper tries to keep position but has dropped back to 3rd going into the turn and backed into Secret Legend, who has to tap on the brakes. Stormy at Midnight is on the lead by about a neck. Pine Tree Rocket right there to the outside as they round the 4th turn. I Got Game getting closer without being asked. I Got Game in the 3-path looms large at the quarter pole. Gap of 2 to Gateskeeper, and then Secret Legend at the top of the lane. I Got Game challenging Pine Tree Rocket on the front end. I Got Game with a head in front of Pine Tree Rocket. Secret Legend had that trouble at the 3/8 pole, has come outside for a clear path, and he's got a chance. I Got Game still in front and has plenty of grit in the final 16th as he's still in front. Gateskeeper on the inside making a dive after him. I Got Game, Gateskeeper right there battling to the line, but it's I Got Game. I Got Game breaks the maiden narrowly over Gateskeeper. Secret Legend 3rd best, and then Bontemps.
And there you saw the number 4, I Got Game, the 2-year-old gelding by game winner, 6 career start. This one ends up in the winner's circle off of those 2 seconds. Now gets that first and got first run on a couple of the rivals in here. Was sitting towards the outside in the 4. Maybe just a better trip than a couple of the others in behind.
Yeah, well, the 1 horse you could see here was checking in behind the 2. Gateskeeper lost considerable position at that point. And the fact that this horse caught his stride and rallied on and got up for 3rd. I think this is a horse you want to keep an eye on going forward. Secret Legend, the 1. The 2 horse got, I think, just outpaced or was outfooted when your favorite, I Got Game, got first run. And he came out and then had to duck back to his inside. So he also didn't have as smooth a trip as the winner. I think the winner just got the best trip here.
Absolutely, got the best trip, but also had the most experience, the most foundation, and did end up working out a great trip. I agree with you on the 1, Secret Legend. This is a horse that you definitely want to try to maybe throw him in your stable to find out when this one runs back. Think about it. I mean, they ran that 1 turf sprint back in September, had all this time leading up to it, was stuck on the inside, had to check, take back, circle around, had a lot of excuses in this spot. Should run much better next time.
There you see I Got Game, the winner. There finishing 2nd was Gateskeeper, and the 1, Secret Legend. Put that one in your stable there. Take a look at that horse next time out, finishing 3rd. 4-2-1 there in Oaklawn's 5th for the 2-year-olds. I Got Game finally made those changes, and it got to the winner's circle. You know, had some question marks, but was he best?
Well, got the right trip today. Certainly
trip.
other trip, and Tom Amos, he knows how to win. He knows the value of position and getting horses prepared to be in the game.
Plenty more action coming from Oaklawn Park and Tampa Bay Downs when we come back. We've got great racing still ahead on America's Day at the Races. Join Naira Bets today, and you can play the action on our program and more while earning up to a $200 deposit match bonus. You can sign up with the promo code BONUS200 and earn up to $200 deposit match after your first deposit. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime, and join now at NairaBets.com to earn your $200 deposit match. Taking a look at that fifth race once again at Oaklawn Park, and we saw a nice stretch drive here, and I Got Game at 4-5, got the job done, held off two horses that might have had trouble trips in there. We talked about just got first run, but the 4 does get the job done.
Yeah, he made that sweep. We kind of saw it was a successful move yesterday, Chris, and I Got Game kept finding and adding the blinkers, coming back as a gelding, got it done. The 2 might have been a touch unlucky, kind of had to wait while I Got Game got first run, and the 1, Secret Legend, certainly to me had the toughest trip of anybody. But listen, I Got Game. I do. I got game.
He got game, indeed. And taking a look at the 1 and the 2, troubled trips, but was one worse than the other, did you feel like?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the 1, I mean, I always think that when you kind of when you're in there in a spot and get shuffled all the way out of there like that and then re-rally and circle, I think that's a little bit harder. The 2 wasn't in a comfortable spot, but just was always kind of in that spot. Never really had to slam on the brakes like the 1 did. The 1, like, water skiing for a second.
Right, that was the difference, right? The 2-horse Gatekeeper had to wait for room, where the 1, Secret Legend, had a check.
Race number 6 is coming up from Oaklawn Park. It's 6 furlongs. We're going to scratch the 5 in there. You got a 3-2 favorite currently. Ramon Vasquez is going to be aboard. The number 6 and Sister Kisses, Gennaro Garcia, who Paul talked about, is having a very strong meet to start things off. We'll see if they can get the job done as the favorite, but still plenty of time before that race comes up. We're going to talk about agents. We're going to talk about the life of a jockey's agent and Jose Santos Jr., his life and representing jockeys in their colonies. When we come back on America's Day at the Races.
They come on for the finish in the Pilgrim Stakes. Annapolis by a head.
It is Annapolis in front. It is Annapolis to win the Coolmore Turf Mile.
Enhance your handicapping with AI Fast Facts, exclusively on Naira Bets. Open your Naira Bets app, click View Runner Details, and a stat-driven fact will appear for all U.S. thoroughbred racehorses. Download the Naira Bets app to start using Fast Facts today.
RaceLens is the most in-depth product in horse racing, with unique features found nowhere else. True odds, predictive analysis, and pace projection. RaceLens. It will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level.
And they're off in the Curlin, Florida Derby. After 3 quarters in 112-1, Known Agenda is now on to take over the lead. It's Known Agenda for St. Elias Stable. Florida Derby winner, Known Agenda.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
I swore my whole life growing up that's what I was going to be, a jockey. Everyone around me's ever been a jockey, and I was always the smallest kid in my class. And then around 8th or 9th grade, I started shooting up, and it was pretty clear I wasn't going to be a jockey. And my dad actually was an agent at the time. He really didn't understand how to do the condition book aspect, but he knew the people. So I started learning how to read the condition book, and I would take notes, and I would give him the notes and say, you know, you should ask this guy about this race. And that's kind of where I got my first interest in it. When I was 16, I became an agent back home at Calder.
Jose Santos Jr. not only grew up with the game, he experienced firsthand the thrill of winning the Kentucky Derby as an 8-year-old, when his father, Jose Santos, rode Funny Side to victory.
That was unbelievable. It's such a crazy thing. When he got on him for the first time, it was 2 weeks out from his first race that he ever was going to run. and he worked him, and he called me right when he got off of him and said, I just found the winner of the Kentucky Derby. As a 2-year-old, New York bred, never raced before, and I was like, awesome, you know? So then he told me the name, and I watched him run. We were excited from day one. An unbelievable experience. Yeah, I'll never forget it, that's for sure. Now I want to win my own. What agents, I think what we're supposed to do is handicap what the race is going to be, who's going to ride what in what race, see where you can fit in, and then also what's the racing secretary going to use. And I base that off knowing what horses are going to be in the races, so you know, okay, this race will fill, this race might not, this one they might want to push back for a later date because it's got a chance to pick up more horses. So I kind of got to handicap what the office is going to do as well as, you know, what's going to happen in the race. It stays color coordinated. This is just the horses that I believe are going to be in this race. Horses I've ridden or had calls on before, so I can note that, okay, I need to check on this horse first. If that's not going to happen, then I'll move on to one of these. And, you know, after we've drawn a race, it kind of goes a little crazier. So this was opening day of the meet, and, you know, just try to keep up with that. And when races don't go, I move them over into the next race that I think they're going to be in, and just kind of go from there. We got a shot in this race. You know, always been a competitor, and this is so much fun. There's no other way to put it. It makes me feel so involved, and it doesn't feel like work at all. On a normal day, I'll be involved in 20 plus races, you know, which is really fun. I mean, just constant action, you know, get to do my favorite thing, watch horse racing.
And there you see the long list of clients for Jose Santos Jr., Julian Leperoux, who we've spoken about, right there at Hot Springs, Arkansas, Raylu Gutierrez, Manny Esquivel, who won a race, Fernando Jara's in there, Caramanos. I mean, the list goes on, and he's representing a lot of different riders, different jurisdictions, but a lot of talent across the board.
Well, the way the rules are written, you can have 2 riders in one jurisdiction. They don't address that you could have 2 riders in several different jurisdictions, and he's got Christopher Elliott here in New York. And it's an amazing amount of work to keep track of all those horses. And you just saw where, you know, the one he wants to ride and then his other options if that doesn't work out. And one thing about Jose, and I've known him since he's a baby, basically, he loves this game. His passion is as unparalleled as can be.
I think one part that's important for people to understand, especially if you're just watching for the first time or first couple of times, that is not common for an agent to have that many riders. It's not. I can't even think of someone who has that many other riders. And so for him to be able to manage that the way that he does, he's kind of brought being a jockey's agent into the 21st century with some of the technology and stuff. You know, he's still hand writing some things out, but trust me, he's using some technology as well to keep all of that stuff in order. And it's so shocking to me. There's jockey's agents that, in my opinion, likely struggle with 2 riders, and he's got, 12, 10.
Yeah. I mean, just. A lot.
A lot.
And luckily, we've got a member of our own team, actually, that had an agent and knows a different angle from an agent standpoint. And obviously, baseball agents a little bit different, but what kind of insight can you give us, Paul? Because I know you dealt with agents probably throughout your entire career.
Yeah, with many agents, from the time when you're about ready to sign, you got a million agents that want to come after you. Well, I chose my mother for my first agent who signed my professional contract because I was not a high draft pick. But, you know, when you get an agent and you sign an agent to yourself, you know, I signed Aces, who was a big agency, and I was between them and Scott Boras. And a lot of people don't realize, you know, Scott is a guy that played minor league baseball, so he understood that it's kind of rags to riches. I compared minor league baseball to quarter horse racing. You'll be running for a trial for $4,000, and then you're running for $1 million race if you make that $1 million race. So it's rags to riches there. So you rely more on your agent in the minor leagues to get you batting gloves, a glove contract, a bat contract, especially when you're not a big-time prospect. The other part about it is when you get to the big leagues, it's a little bit different when it comes in the contract. Your agent tries to put you in the best situation. He'll give you many options, and you'll hear some guys like say, "Oh, Scott Boras is doing this, Scott Boras is doing that." That's not happening. Any player or every player can choose when they want to sign their contract, when, if, or not. The only difference between myself and somebody like, you know, Jose Santos Jr. is I had to read the inside edge that was this big on everybody that was in the major leagues, had to study all those guys, you know, to prepare, you know, for the hitters and stuff like that. The agents are there to protect you And for them to keep you out of the newspaper, make sure you get a good contract, make sure you get good incentives, and try to push you along and get you that good contract and try to get you paid. So it's a little bit different in that aspect, but obviously the way Jose handles it, it's a little bit like, a lot of guys too also don't want to go to an agency with a lot of guys because then you might be low on the totem pole, but it seems like Jose keeps all 8 guys a priority.
Great stuff there from Paul LaDuca, of course, and we're right on top of race number 8 here at Tampa, and they're in behind the gate as we get set for 6 furlongs, 25,000 non-2 lifetime, and we've got some speed in here. We've got some horses coming off of long layoffs, but what did you guys see? You got a 2-1 favorite right now in Cajun Gem.
My eyes can't stop looking at, you said long layoff. I think it needs another very long layoff. This horse hasn't run since August of 2020. Think about how much has changed since then and now. A very interesting situation to bring a horse back off such a long break and taking a little bit of money. Those races prior to that break would absolutely dominate this field. But man,
and the horse just outside of him, Cajun Gem, your favorite, he came off a 2.5-year layoff to win after chasing Super Chow, multiple stakes winner on debut.
It's actually a mare. It's a 7-year-old mare, actually, the one.
On
so
the
she's
inside,
tackling the boys in here, and I don't know. There's some question marks, but I think the horse is actually taking a little bit of action, too. 5-1 currently on the board.
I wonder if she had any foals in the interim.
It's possible. But why come back to – well, we're going to find out our answers right here. It's Tampa's 8th race coming up. The mare towards the inside there in Starship Voyager. Looked like the favorite would go off as Cajun Gem. Horse that has only had 2 lifetime starts but 1 last time out. Then got gelded, and Gerald Bennett and Sammy Camacho towards the outside there with South America the 6th. So some question marks. They're going to be answered right here in the 8th race at Tampa. Jason Bean, track announcer, with the call.
They're in the gate. And the race is on. Uncaptured Star got away quickly. Cajun Gem flashing some speed in those red colors. Those two, 1-2 through that first 16th of a mile. South America now merges up to be 3rd. Down to the inside, Starship Voyager was out 4th, just 2.5 off the top. Then comes Sharon's Prince, who's in that 5th position. The Big Calico Dive Master, they're out wide 6th and 7th. And the trailer early on is Free Rambling Man, as up front Cajun Gem just leads Uncaptured Stars. They run toward the far turn. 22-2 is the opening quarter mile. It's Cajun Gem now almost a length in front of Uncaptured Star. South America going to shift toward the inside for the rally from 3rd. It's 2 more back to Sharon's Prince, who's up a spot in 4th, going by Starship Voyager. Dive Master starts to launch from the back, still has 6 or 7 to find. They come to the top of the lane. Cajun Gem still the leader. Uncaptured Star still hounding that one from 2nd. Up the inside, South America spies a seam down at the rail. Sharon's Prince is back 4th, 3.5 off the leader. Cajun Gem in front with a furlong left to go. On the inside, South America trying to make up a length. Uncaptured Star is back 3rd. Sharon's Prince 4th. Cajun Gem pleading for the wire. Cajun Gem's going to find it. Cajun Gem a length and a half. South America looked to grab 2nd. 3rd was close between Uncaptured Star and Sharon's Prince. It was a long way back to Free Rambling Man and Dive Master after that.
And there you see the number 2 in Cajun Gem. Michael Yates, trainee, gets the job done. Marcos Meneses aboard. And lightly raced horse has only had those 2 lifetime starts. But when you have some of these horses with a lot of starts in behind that non-2 lifetime level, if you're in front of them, that's probably the right spot to be in the stretch.
And he was a horse that showed good speed on debut back in July of 22, chasing Super Chow, who's a multiple stakes winner, a very fast horse. Comes back off that elongated layup, goes wire to wire, does it again here on the wrong lead, but refused to let South America cut into that margin down on the inside. And what a job by Michael Yates to bring this horse back off of that kind of time and win back-to-back races.
Yeah, it went down to favoritism. It looked like bet down once again, but, again, you get in front of them, and it's just hard to make up some of that ground, especially at that level.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that speed is the biggest weapon when you start getting to the lower levels. To me, it's the thing that can kind of be the separator or the discourager, like you mentioned.
Race number 6, we'll shift on over to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and taking a look at the 6th race, the starter race at this good level. Scratching the number 5 in here, and that's Wampus Kitten. We're going to have a post parade in just a second, but 6 furlongs over a fast main track. It's nice to see a fast track. I think I've heard several times on the show. It's always like it seems like it's muddy or there's some sort of rain in the area, but it looks nice out there this afternoon. There's the 1, Loveland.
Yeah, has some speed from the inside. Ricardo Santana will want to use that speed.
The 2 is Timbavati.
Getting back to the dirt, has won on dirt after taking 2 races on the turf get Fernando Yara.
We got the 3, True Princess.
Has had some back races that could be competitive in here, but seems to be going the wrong direction.
The 4, Intermittent Fast.
Comes off a big win at Churchill Downs last time.
And the 6 is your current, favorite at 9-5. That's going to be the 6, Sister Kisses.
Hard knocking, consistent, has natural speed, should be in a really good spot stalking.
Not sure. We saw him pick up a victory or 2 yesterday, and that's the 7, Up the Creek.
I think he's a great young trainer, and I think that there's another step likely to be taken forward for this horse Up to the Creek.
And the 8 is Malibu Smart.
Yeah, deep closer. This horse has no speed going long. Turning back in distance, will be in another area code early, but probably going in the right direction at the finish.
Looks like it's fairly wide open outside of the 4 and the 6. Paul, how did you see it this 6th race coming up here? 6 furlongs is the distance.
I use 3 horses here in the early pick 5. This will start, the late pick 5. This will start the early one. The late one, excuse me. I like Timbavati a little bit, and I'll start with the 2 in here with Fernando Jara and Lindsey Schultz. You know, a horse that claimed from Ron Moquette. They stuck this horse on the turf a couple times, and this horse really improved. Now, if you go back and you look, the one really good race for this horse was off a layoff. Now, again, I get it against Arkansas breds, but I think that's kind of a vote of confidence. Lindsey could have ran this horse in many Arkansas bred races, so I thought the 2 at 11-1 was an outsider in here. Now let's get to the 2 horses that they're betting, and they should be betting, are the 4 and their 6. The 4 from Mike Maker is just obviously an honest horse. 4 wins out of 8 starts. Good win last time. Seems like the Lasix has helped the last 2 times as well. A good race over the turf, and then a win last time out at Churchill Downs, and kind of against the racetrack. I thought Luis Saez kind of carried the horse a little bit, but I think he's going to be tough. And then the 6, Sister Kisses, this horse is in great form. If you look, she really hasn't run a bad race. Especially in her last 4 or 5, and she looks like she's going to be in the picture here, I would think. She has tactical speed. She kind of is, she's outside of her main competition, and I think she's got, a big shot in here. The outside horse in here, the horse that I would maybe throw in would be the 7. I think Jonathan's dead right. Matt Shire got his first win at the meet. He's a heady trainer. This horse now going from a mile now out a little bit, cutting back in distance, and maybe that's a plan. Matt, when he claims horses, usually has a plan. And this horse does have a good race going around 1 turn at Keeneland. So, if I had a choice, I would take a shot with the 2 at 12-1, but I have a feeling the 4 horse in here is going to be very, very tough to beat.
Thanks, Paul, and taking a look at the 2, and had a nice winner yesterday to close out the show. So, Paul, taking a look at the 2, and feels like Timbavati is showing that value at that 12-1 price. But you do take a look at the action between the 4 and the 6. They've been back and forth. But the 6, Sister Kisses, Genera Garcia, off of those second-place finishes, a 3rd. A lot of minor shares lately, but Sister Kisses, the better seem to kind of be siding a bit more with the 6.
I just think being outside the other speed, and the horses outside of her don't have any speed, gives her that nice outside trip, right? She's not under the same kind of pressure. She's going to be forward, but it doesn't force her into anything.
The 4, Intermittent Fast, comes out of a pretty fast heat, and you take a look at that win by a neck. Isaac Castillo aboard for Mike Maker, JK.
Yeah, and the pace was fast that day. This horse was involved close up to that pace, and that was off of a little bit of a break. When I see a horse, a forwardly placed horse, okay, forwardly placed horses, they do all the running. They're running the whole time. They don't get to take back, make one run, save a little energy. They're running the whole time. And when one can run so well first off a layoff, to me it screams fitness, and it screams there's another step that this horse can take moving forward. I think Intermittent Fast makes a lot of sense, and I know it's a kind of a fad diet now. I think it probably works, but you invented intermittent fasting, didn't you, Richie?
You know what? I still fast. It's good for your body to reset. And honestly, after about 6 or 7 hours not eating, you're really, really hungry. But you get past that point, you don't even think about it. You just forget about it.
It's kind of a soft landing on the whole fasting process of cutting down. Intermittent fasting, it's a very technical term. Very, very, very technical term.
I'm starving.
It just means just don't eat. We probably eat twice as much food as we actually need to survive.
Yeah. Right? But also when you're doing it for your career, obviously, and you have to watch your diet. That's really watching your diet for these jockeys, whether you're a bug or whether you're a journeyman.
See, that's why I'm such a nicer person now than I was when I was riding. I was not a very reasonable individual when I was hungry.
I got to be honest. I'm glad I didn't have to work with you when you weren't eating.
Yeah, I had a little bit of snarl. I could snap a little bit. Little bit.
We have one scratch in here of the 5, and we talked about the favorites, we talked about the 4 and the 6, but we don't have anybody over 12-1. So I mean, you're not seeing huge long shots in here, but maybe towards the outside, taking a look at the 7 and the 8 up the creek. Francisco Arrieta, we talked about Matt Shearer and the job that he's done and developing, and that's a horse coming from Churchill. From that level, look at that, 80,000 non-winners of 2 lifetime. Where does a race like that stack up against a field like this?
I think that's a good question for you, JK. I really don't have a good handle on that high-price claimer and how it translates to this.
Well, I think the first thing is that's what makes Oaklawn so tough, is the fact that you do have these horses coming from different classes and trying to compare them. What I've always leaned on in those situations when I'm struggling to understand which is actually a better race, I let the speed figures tell me the answer to that question. If one race is being run with an 80 speed figure, the other one's being run with 90s, I'm going to side with the faster one. I know that's not the exact answer to the question you're asking, because you're asking who are they running against, but sometimes the figure is the closest way to figure that out. But I will say this. A lot of times what I'll do is I will side with horses that are running at racetracks that have higher purses. If they're all kind of running at similar places, that sometimes following the money can help.
And the connections have to make a decision too. You come off of that maiden 50 effort at Churchill. We're talking about the 7 and up the creek, but you've got to find a spot where you can place that horse in the next race. And maybe this is just the spot that came up, and they feel like this is actually probably more where they wanted to be, outside of that 80,000 on 2, and now maybe this is exactly the right spot for the horse.
Yeah, and the thing about it, too, is that Churchill's had those, it's been pretty well documented, the purse increases in Kentucky. So when you see a horse that's running for 50 when they're running in Kentucky for bigger money, it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable than if they're running for 40 or 50 somewhere else.
And then towards the outside, you talked about Malibu Smart and a horse that comes off of a 6. There's a 4th, a lot of minor shares, 2 seconds, 3/3, 1 win, 11 starts. 0 for 5 at Oaklawn, though, and you were talking about kind of the familiarity with the track. So this horse has seen the track and has not seen success yet.
Yeah, 0 for 5 with 3/3 to show for it, racing at Oaklawn. The biggest thing to me is this horse is coming off of a layoff. It hasn't been seen since running at Oaklawn last March. And has a horse that has no speed going longer, coming back sprinting. It feels like a starting point, right? A race just to get her going again, get a race under her belt, because I can't imagine she's going to be anywhere close to the pace in this race sprinting.
Who did you feel like is going to be in front? Who do we feel like is going to be the controlling speed
I
in
think
here?
Intermittent Fast is the speed.
Well, either that or Sister Kisses. I think it's more of an intent thing. I wouldn't be shocked if the one Loveland with Ricardo on the inside. I think having a rider like Ricardo who can be aggressive in a rail draw with a horse that has tactical speed, he could send away from there. If the other two want to sit off, it could happen.
All right, we're going to find out what happens here in race number 6. Matt Dinnerman with the call from Oaklawn.
At post Malibu Smart. We're ready to go. And we're off. Uneventful start. Sister Kisses up on the pace. Tim Bavati hit the ground running, is close up as well. Up the creek, gets into it early. Loveland from the inside, moving up to come and challenge. A contentious leadership here, and it's a group of them. Loveland on the inside with a head in front of Tim Bavati. Intermittent Fast is there, 3 deep. Gap of 2 to Sister Kisses. Decides to track in a good position. And between horses, True Princess is also one of them that's also on the lead. We come back to Up the Creek. 5th now, racing alone in a gap of 6. To Malibu Smart, who will attempt to do her best running later, is being encouraged to pick up the pace. True Princess bows out, and there is still a good battle on the front end here. Intermittent Fast in the 3 path. It's a short edge. Tim Bavati begins to weaken, so does Loveland. Sister Kisses is coming on strongly down the outside, and Sister Kisses, no excuses for her. She's got every shot to win it. Sister Kisses down the lane with Intermittent Fast, who did all that dirty work early on the lead, is trying to stick around. Sister Kisses with the upper hand, starts to inch away. Intermittent Fast is second, dives to the fence. Sister Kisses with a 16th to go. She is well ahead and coasting clear. Sister Kisses, Ramon Vasquez, an easy winner. Intermittent Fast was second. Malibu Smart from the rear gets third. Loveland holds 4th.
And it was the 6 Sister Kisses from just off the pace. 4 of them went after one another in the early stages, and the 6 just at the right trip. Outside trip, touch wide, but got the job done.
Well, Vasquez watching this 4-horse scrum take shape in front of him, and he's going, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, this is perfect for me. And made his run a little bit early, I thought, but was the right move because he got it done, and she just kept widening. But the post position enabled her to have this trip.
Yeah, look, Sister Kisses won. She got a great trip. Intermittent fast ran huge.
Yeah.
To attend those 3 or 4, that 3 or 4 across the track situation, 4 across the track, being one of those horses are out the back. She almost won, and if it wasn't for a horse like Sister Kisses, I just think sometimes we become so results-oriented in racing because that's how you get paid is the results, and I understand that. But moving forward, there's a horse like intermittent fasting that shows up. I want to bet a horse like that.
6-4, 8-1, your order finished there. And Ramon Vasquez from just off the pace. Gennaro Garcia continues to do his strong work. Paul LaDuca has talked about this trainer. Very hot to start the meet. He continues his winning ways there in Hot Springs. It's break time here. We're going to come right back. We're going to talk about a horse you guys are very familiar with. Is the Grizzly Bear, Torpedo Anna, the horse of the year. When we come back here on FS2, America Day at the Races. And welcome back to America's Day at the Races here on FS2. And you saw the winner there from today's 6th race here at Oaklawn Park. That's 6 in Sister Kisses. Saw Sister Kisses towards the outside, getting the job done. Nice stretch run, just steered clear of all the traffic and was able to get to the winner's circle.
Yeah, it was a contested pace. 4 horses scrimmaging for the lead, and Sister Kisses sat just off of them, made the move off the turn under Ramon Vasquez, a rider that I got a lot more familiar with this summer in Saratoga. Liked what I saw. His agent, Billy Castle, does a good job for him. But I'm with you, Jonathan. intermittent fast. She was the last lady standing after a barroom brawl.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to take anything away from I'm not taking anything away from the winner, right? Sister Kisses ran outstanding and ran well and got a great trip. I'm just saying that when you watch races like this, there's an opportunity to gather some information moving forward for the next time. And for me, moving forward, intermittent fast is the type of horse I'd want to bet out of this race. Sister Kisses is the horse I would try to oppose because Sister Kisses is going to be bet next time because she won and she got a great trip. I think there's value trying to beat her next time. Not that I don't think she ran well, just trying to beat her. Sure.
And race number 7 is going to be coming up at Oaklawn Park as we get set for a really nice field there. 14 were signed on with 3 scratches in there. Scratch of the 8, 12, and 14. But we do see Risk It. Keith Asmussen will be aboard, taking all the current action right now. $130,000 purse at 6 to 5.
Torpedo Anna has been a model of consistency in 2024. After a romp in the fantasy, she gave her trainer, Kenny McPeak, his first Kentucky Oaks victory, launching her to the top of the division. The daughter of Fast Anna asserted her dominance in both the Acorn and Coaching Club American Oaks, which lined her up for an epic renewal of the Travers. A stretch drive for the ages, Anna lost nothing in defeat to Fierceness and earned a standing ovation from the 40,000 in attendance. The cotillion win was anything but easy before heading out west and dominating the Breeders' Cup Distaff to cap off an amazing year. Can Torpedo Anna become the first filly since 2010 to capture Horse of the Year honors?
And there is Torpedo Anna, her 2024 resume, and you see a lot of wins. That's what you see, basically up and down. Her 1 second in the Travers, of course, in Grade 1. And taking a look at her resume, and the question is out there, is she Horse of the Year? I mean, she's obviously atop her division. I don't know. Just let you go. I mean, where is she the Horse of the Year? Look at that resume. What did you make of the whole thing?
I believe she's Horse of the Year because of her consistency. You know, in a year with the older horses, there wasn't a lot of consistency. They took turns beating each other. The 3-year-old, she was defeated by Fierceness, but you can make a case that Sierra Leone's going to be 3-year-old champion. I think because of her resume and her consistency, Torpedo Anna in this year deserves to be Horse of the Year.
If Sierra Leone would have won the Derby, and then you add that to his resume, he'd be Horse of the Year.
Right.
If Fierceness would have won the Classic, he would have been Horse of the Year.
Right.
But neither one of those things happened,
Sure.
and to me, it's a slam dunk that Torpedo Anna wins.
Yep. Paul, what do you think? I mean, Torpedo Anna, is it a slam dunk like they say? Is she the Horse of the Year, or do you have any different thoughts?
Well, it's a soft spot in my heart. I think it'd be a crime if they didn't give it to her, to be honest with you. I mean, she was a step close to being an undefeated season and beating Fierceness. And let's not forget, she beat Sierra Leone in that race. So, you know, this is a special filly. And I think the other part about it is let's not forget, like, she was the most anticipated horse to watch all year. I understand we were watching the 3-year-old division go back and forth, but we were pondering, when was Torpedo Anna going to take on the boys? Sure, Fantasy Win was her coming out party. Ray Briner had told me she had outworked Mystic Dan, who won the Kentucky Derby, and all the rest of the big horses in the barn. And she showed it on the racetrack. She just came a step short in the Travers. But for me, she's just a slam dunk, and I'm with Mig. The consistency and the domination that she won her races in. And the fantasy, from the 12-hole to the short wire, the way she won was unbelievable. And then she just obviously did it next time in the Kentucky Oaks, and it just continued. So for me, I'm with Jonathan. I think it's a slam dunk.
Yeah, were we spoiled almost because she was so consistent throughout the year that it became kind of a what have you done for me lately, and we saw that big late rush by Sierra Leone to be able to win the Classic, and that changed a lot of people's minds. And will it change enough voters' minds, though, to have that question mark to say, how do we reevaluate this where I stood? Because she seemed like she was a slam dunk going in, but Sierra Leone really changed that up.
Yeah, but I think the bigger debate is who's 3-year-old male champion between Sierra Leone and Fierceness. Now, Fierceness did, throw in a bad race here and there, most notably the Kentucky Derby. But he did defeat Sierra Leone twice, and Sierra Leone defeated him twice, once in that Derby when he was a no-show. I actually think Fierceness ran a better race in the Breeders' Cup Classic because he was the one attending that pace. But Sierra Leone's a closer. He finally got pace to run into.
It's comforting because I wouldn't be offended either way. I think there's some times where if Flavian Pratt doesn't win Jockey of the Year, I would be offended.
That's a travesty,
right?
Then, yeah.
But this is a situation when it comes to 3-year-old champion. If Sierra Leone were to win or if Fierceness were to win, it's not going to bother me either way. I think there's an argument you could make for both of them. I would side. I think when it comes to those trophies at the end, I spend every day on who's better in a race. Who ran better, who deserved it, who was best. That matters for gambling.
Sure.
When it comes to the trophies and stuff like that, whoever crosses the wire first has to matter a little bit more.
Right.
I think the good news is those horses are all coming back next year, so it'll be nice to have some younger horses maybe tackle some of those older rivals, and then we can get some of those real strong matchups. So we'll see what happens with the voting, and they're all good horses, but we're off to a good start here at Oaklawn. Talk to Kenny McPeak, or taking a look at Kenny McPeak, I should say, when we come back on America's Day at the Races.
The champion 2-year-old. One of 4 champion 2-year-olds in his immediate family. Essential quality at 2. Undefeated.
Essential quality, though, has opened up by 5.
Devastating. His own first 2-year-olds race in 2025. If they're anything like him and you've got a mare in foal, just imagine.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
Breed to pure California speed as Legacy Ranch welcomes Forbidden Kingdom.
It's Forbidden Kingdom, dominant in the San Vicente.
This blazing fast son of American Pharaoh went wire to wire in every one of his victories.
What a performance from Forbidden Kingdom in the San Felipe.
Posting 3 Grade 2 wins on dirt and turf.
Forbidden Kingdom, resolute, turns away a big bit.
Breed to the speed of California speed. Forbidden Kingdom, now standing at Legacy Ranch.
Who's still a nose in front. Koru is lifting late as well. Better lucky than good at the rail. Better lucky than good. Koru, better lucky than good, wins the finale.
Welcome to Adelphi Racing Club's unparalleled partnership experience. Exclusive access to the backstretch at Belmont and Saratoga, premier accommodations on race day, and of course, experience excitement like no other. Contact us today to get a taste of the Adelphi difference.
And welcome back to America's Day at the Races, as we've got Tampa's 9th race coming right up. We've got 2-year-olds going the 6 furlongs, and we do scratch the number 7 in Miss Kendrick B. $32,000 claiming level, $24,000 purse. And again, a board that's wide open. You take a look at the 3, 4, and 5. They're the ones all taking the action. 2-1 currently on the 5 Sweet Pain, and the 3 Mount Doro, and the 4 Miss Emily, both sitting at that 3-1 price. And taking a look at this 8th race coming up, or the 9th race coming up, excuse me. Lightly raced horses, the 2-year-olds. We were talking about some of those 2-year-olds that just hadn't come to the races yet. There's a lot of them in here because they're very lightly raced field, maiden $32,000 level. Where'd you guys go?
When it comes to these types of races, I always start with who's run, who has speed, and who's dropping from maiden special weight. And when it comes to that answer, it doesn't give you much. It doesn't help. Then I'm okay with looking for first-time starters, and you see a horse like the 5, Sweet Pain, taking this money first time out. And then I want to look, when it's a first-time starter in a spot like this, I want to look to the siblings to see if there was siblings that were fast. I don't necessarily need, especially in this condition, I don't need the siblings to be good. I just need them to have shown some speed, because sometimes that speed and that precocity can carry, at least in a spot like this. And the 5 Sweet Pain did have a sibling, Rock Rose, who showed some early speed on a number of occasions, and that's good enough for me in a spot like this where I just don't trust any of these horses that have already run.
Kind of interesting, too, right? You have 2 first-time starters from the Tim Ham barn, the 3 Mount Doro, and the 5 Sweet Pain, both taking money, right? Sweet Pain, your favorite, at 5-2, Mount Doro, 3-1. If you look at their last 3 works, they were on the same exact dates, at the same exact distances, 3 back out of the starting gate, and every single time Sweet Pain's works were a bit faster than the 3 Mount Doro. So pretty close in price, but I think Sweet Pain's already proven she's a little bit better than the 3 Mount Doro. And Tim Ham is a guy that can win with first-time starters.
You are seeing a lot of works, though, for the 3. You're seeing this horse has been on the work tab for quite some time. Trying to find races or just basically kind of finding the right spot, or just the horse wasn't fully prepared based on their standards, or what do you take from that?
I mean, this horse had a steady work tab from July all the way to September, and then there was a break. So obviously this horse was probably ready to run at that point. Something went awry, gave her some time, and now she's been working again steadily. But I always find it interesting when you see 2 horses from the same barn working on the same dates. It's an assumption. I don't know it as fact. I wasn't there to watch the works, that they were working in company.
And as a handicapper, you really got to dive in, because you might have said, okay, Bennett, Camacho, they team up on the 7. The 7 gets scratched. Okay, now we got to go to the drawing board. We got to start really handicapping this race, because if I just landed on the favorite, and as simple as that, then I land on the favorite. But now you had to really kind of dig deep and take a look at some pedigrees and take a look at some of those workouts coming in.
Yeah, but when you're dealing with maiden claimers, it's it's not all. You don't have to be world beaters to win these types of races. So while pedigree can give you some clues, it's not like a Saturday at Saratoga when you're looking at horses that are, halves to multiple Grade 1 winners. It's sold for millions of dollars. But you do try to find some clues, because that's what the trick is with betting first-time starters, and races with a bunch of first-time starters in it, is you can use trainer stats to understand which trainers excel at having horses run well first time out. You can look at pedigree to a certain extent. You can look at the work tab to look at those long, consistent works. Look for fast works. And then, and then you can also try to play the musical jockeys game to try to identify who are the good riders, and who usually the good riders show up on the good horses, a little chicken and egg there. You saw that thing we had earlier with Jose Santos. But those are all very unreliable things individually when it comes to maiden claiming races.
And Richie, we spoke about Jose Ferrer yesterday, and working in tandem the 5 with the 3, but some speed, show some speed out of the gate, and really kind of send from an outside draw.
Yeah, well, listen, Jose's an aggressive guy. I mean, he rides aggressively. We were talking about it yesterday, Jonathan. We had the bug together, and he's still doing it. And he's still doing it at a high level. The guy keeps himself in amazing shape.
All right, we're going to find out what happens here in race number 9. They had the scratch of the 7, and Timothy Ham, the trainer, has had 2 entries in here. He's got the 3 and the 5, and both of them kind of taking equal action. Lukewarm favorite right now is the 5 in Sweet Pain. Looks like they're completing the load here with 2-year-olds getting set. Do they still act up? We talked about here in December, but 2-year-olds are still seeing this for the first time. I mean, it doesn't really matter what time of the year. They've seen the gate a few more times than others.
They could have gone to the gate hundreds of times in the morning. In the afternoon, the atmosphere is different. The attention's different. It's like the difference between basic training and the front line.
All right, we're going to find out what happens here. We still got 2 more to load. Better Have Cash and Go for Zach's 2 runners with experience towards the outside. Jason Beam to complete the lineup, and the call from Tampa and their 9th.
Yuma to the outside. Go for Zach's just about in. Go for Zach's goes forward. They're in the gate. And the race is on. Tap on it away just a half step slow. Miss Emily in the yellow colors got out to a good beginning. Here's Sweet Pain from the outside of those 2. Speed away in the early going. They're a length clear of Mount Dioro, who's away in 3rd. Chosen Factor in the purple colors is 4th, just 2.5 off the top. Things got a little tight there for Chosen Factor. Going by that one now is Better Have Cash. Go for Zach's is out wide, second last, and Tap on it after the slow beginning is the early trailer. But Sweet Pain able to clear off as they run toward that far turn. The lead is now 2. Better Have Cash between horses. Miss Emily in the yellow colors, they're 2nd and 3rd. Go for Zach's joins them to make it 3 in a line in the 2nd flight. It was a 23-second opening quarter mile for Sweet Pain and Jose Ferrer on the engine in front by almost 3 now.
to Miss Emily. Go for Zach's. Tap Bonnet. Looping up on the outside is 4 wide, but has some decent momentum. They've all got to come get Sweet Pain, though. Sweet Pain to the top of the stretch. The lead still 3. Miss Emily is second. On the far outside, Tap Bonnet up to third. Sweet Pain cuts the corner, has a final furlong to see it out. Miss Emily trying to re-rally on the far outside. Sweet Pain comes to the 16th pole, a 2.5, 3-length lead. Miss Emily is second. Late run for Mount Dioro down the far outside up to third, but Sweet Pain going to take them all the way here on debut. Sweet Pain won it by 3 in the end. Miss Emily was second, Mount Dioro third, fourth went to Tap Bonnet, fifth Chosen Factor.
2-year-old filly by Painter, and that's Jose Ferrer in the saddle, getting the job done with the first-time starter for Timothy Ham. Talked about Sweet Pain, got right to the front, flashed early speed, easier trip than the 3, the stablemate, who got caught up in some traffic as the field was crossing over. But Jose Ferrer on the front end, you saw shoving along there at the 3/8 pole and got the job done.
Yeah, it looked to me like she was a little bit lonely out there by herself, in a little green, flicking her ears back and forth, almost running with the emergency brake on a little bit. So Jose keeping her attention, her mind to task. Gave me the impression that if a challenge did get to her, there was a little bit more there. She would have might have got a little more serious, reasserted herself.
Yeah, look, I mean, she won for fun, but that could have went wrong. You know, if he just kind of sat chilly on the lead with her and maybe let other horses run to her, you know, she might have taken away that weapon. What he did, though, is he sent her along, opened up, got a big cushion, so that when they had to then run to catch up to her, and at that point she had kind of done all the dirty work. So, it looked like an easy ride, but I think there were some kind of moves within that ride that actually turned out to be pretty clever.
Well, that's, I think riding a speed horse or riding a horse on the lead, the art to it is using your horse incrementally. So it's making other horses work to stay with you. I'll never understand when a rider waits for the closers to get on top of them and then asks their horse. So in essence, their strategy became, I'm going to outclose the closer. That's not a winning strategy.
And when you take a look at his arm action into that far turn, and it's a 2-year-old, because some horses, they're able to do it on their own, and you can keep them in hand, and they know what they're doing rolling along. A first-time starter like this, a 2-year-old, you need to see that encouragement, kind of keep the horse going. He didn't go to the crop, but at that 3-ice, he just kind of kept keeping her going, keeping her mind to task.
Keeping her attention, exactly, keeping her mind to task. You know, these young horses work in company with other horses. They are a herd animal. That keeps their attention. She was 3 in front, and he's like, I better keep her mind, going forward, because she was kind of flicking her ears around. And a horse's ears are an indicator of what they're looking at. It's almost like radar. When their ears go up, they're checking something out. Be prepared.
Jose Ferrer, he was a bug with our man, Richie Migliori, and he gets right to the winner's circle here. Timothy Ham almost got the exacta there. The 3, Mount Doro, maybe one to write down because that horse was making up some ground late in the late stages. Race number 7 coming up at Oaklawn Park, $130,000 purse. Allowance race at the 6 furlongs at a big field once again. All the money right now is on the number 7 and Risk It. Steve Asmussen, Keith Asmussen teaming up in here. So connections that you're going to trust down there in Hot Springs and connections that you can see. Get that favoritism, but these are the type of races it seems like maybe somebody jumps out at a price.
Yeah, Risk It was interesting. He was a horse that ran the Kentucky Jockey Club as a 2-year-old, got some attention there, ran fine, and it just hasn't really been able to get back to that. However, sprinting last time at Churchill Downs, ran a lifetime best number, even though they didn't win. Maybe Risk It is going in the right direction.
$500,000 purchase by Gunrunner, and he's in this allowance non-winners of 2 lifetime. The conditions allow for this horse to be in this spot, and these are the types of spots you look for at Oaklawn.
Absolutely, $130,000 allowance race. I want a stake when I was an apprentice at Atlantic City. 12,500 added, the Miss America Stakes, 5.5 furlongs on the grass.
There was no intermittent fasting after that. There was celebration. There was partying.
$12,500 person at stake. Hey.
Getting set for a pick 4 coming up here, race number 7 at Oaklawn Park. And we got about 8 minutes till that pick 4 is going to start. Scratch of the 8, scratch of the 12, scratch of the 14. Down towards the inside, the first horse we're going to take a look at here in just a moment, the Chris Hartman trainee. Chris Hartman, 0 for 6. You've seen some of the trainers, some of these 0-fers, right, early on when you take a look at Maker, talked about Brad Cox. But at what point do you say, okay, now they start to turn it around? Is it right when they get that first winner to the winner's circle and then they've really turned things around?
It's cyclical, right? If they're a good trainer, they're going to end up winning races. They're not going to get shut out for the meet. I think that things will get turned around quickly.
The 1, Wendelson.
Yeah, this horse has to break better, though. Has a habit of not breaking well.
The 2, Pass Line.
Is going to have to step up in a big way. It feels like this is a start to get this horse going.
Ricardo Santana Jr. on the 3.
Yeah, this horse has some back numbers that make him a competitor in here at 6-1.
15-1 right now on the 4 in Miller's Right.
Another horse coming off of a layoff, 1 for 10 at Oaklawn.
Rowdy Riot is the 5 at 11-1.
Yeah, ran well last time at Churchill Downs on an outside stalking trip.
Rocco Bowen on the 6, big producer.
Yeah, it would be a bit of a surprise, but I thought stepped up the game a little bit last time at Keelan.
Trainer McLean Robertson sending out the almost 40-1 shot, the 7 we talked about. That's going to be Risk It.
Yeah, ran a lifetime best last time. See if he can keep it going.
All right, we're going to scratch the number 8 in here. Going to go right to the 9, and that's Red Pill.
Yeah, Red Pill has shown some speed. Will need to show it here today.
The 10 is Zeka Diabo.
Nice effort last time under Luan Machado. You get Fernando Yara today.
The 11, Miracle Worker, currently sitting at that 9-2 price.
Yeah, draws well with some of those speed horses to the inside.
Scratch of the 12. We're going to jump over to the 13 here from the also eligible. And taking a look at the 13 and go captain.
Another one who has a lot of early speed from that nice, comfy outside draw, but unfortunately, this race is on dirt. Most of those runs have been on the turf.
That is Christian Torres aboard the number 13, and we're going to go to Paul as we take a look at this 7th race. It does start a pick 4 there at Oaklawn Park, and it's 6 furlongs once again. What do we think of this sprint, Paul?
Well, wide open one, obviously, and I think a lot of people are going to lean on the Keith Asmussen runner and Steve Asmussen with Risk It here. Running a top buyer last time with a 90 buyer, that was the best race that he's ever run. So is he going to digress or is he going to go forward? If he goes forward, he probably wins this race, and then the bettors will be awarded because I think he'll go off as favorite in here. But anytime you're 1 for a lot, which a lot of these horses are 1 for a lot, he's 1 for 10, and he just missed with Flavian Pratt last time out. He got beat by Band for Life, but he's been behind Track Fan. He's been behind some really good horses. He was second in the Iroquois. He beat Liberal Arts. But then again, you keep on going and you go, okay, there's been a spot somewhere where he could have won a second race, and it hasn't happened. So I tend to lean against these type of horses, and especially at 9-5, but obviously the one to beat. The 3, plausibly Denial for Jamie DeVito. If you look at this horse, all the best races for this horse are off a layoff. December 2023, an 87 buyer, then a 90 buyer on March 14th. Jimmy's already had a couple horses that have gotten off to a good start to this meet. I get it, 1 for 21. The blinkers come off of a deep closer. So how far back is the 3 going to be? It really depends. Like Jonathan said, there should be a heated pace. So look for maybe the 3 late in the race. Of all the horses in the post parade, the 5, man, look like a shiny penny. And something happened last time. I don't know if it's the mud or not. I get it I don't know if you can turn your form around that much because of the mud, but the 5 really made an unbelievable appearance in the paddock for Randy Morse and in the post parade here for Randy Morse and Rafael Bejarano. So I would throw that horse in as a little bit of a long shot, but I'm going to take a flyer here with the 3 horse here for Jimmy DeVito from way downtown, guys.
And Paul likes a horse coming from well off the pace, and it does seem like it's the right running style with a lot of contenders. Hot pace, seemed like they had that early speed. The horse that draws in from the also eligible also has speed. Do you see it as a closer? Do you see it for somebody well off the pace?
The problem is Richie, I think this happened to us last week. You look at races like this, and there's a lot of speed in here. And if Paul can look down at the paper and see their speed, Chris, you can look down and see it, I can see it, Richie can see it, then all 12 of those riders or 11 of those riders in the room are looking down and seeing the same thing. And sometimes in those situations, 1 or 2 of them take back, 1 or 2 get a little aggressive, and next thing you know, it's the speed of the speed who's loose out there on the front end. And that happens a lot at Oaklawn because there is a room full of aggressive riders. And sometimes, even though you're going fast, the rest of them are chasing you going fast too. So that's the long way of me telling you that while it makes sense to look for a closer, if you like a speed horse in here, those can win too sometimes in these situations.
I think it's a great point. Riders read the racing form as well, and sometimes you start overthinking things. My rule of thumb, one of my principles of riding was come out getting my position going forward. Don't take for granted. When the times you come out and say, well, I'm going to lay 3rd, you wind up laying 6th. You get shuffled out of it. Come out, let your horse get their position going forward, and then you sort out and see who really wants to go. And and the flip side of that, sometimes it looks like there's absolutely no speed in this race, and 4 guys are thinking the same thing, and they all come out, hell-bent for leather trying to make the lead.
And to that point, you were talking about the number 9 in Red Pill. This is a horse that could contest that early pace, but what did you feel like was standing out here that you could give this one a shot?
I just thought this horse could turn out to be the speed of the speed. I think, Christian Torres has shown time and time again, one of the reasons he's so successful is he stays out of horses' way. He lets them do what they do naturally. This horse is naturally fast. I think he got caught up in too fast a pace last time at Zia. But all of his other races on the dirt as well as the turf, he's been forward and he's run extremely well.
Did we find out who he was riding? Because he was named on the 13, right? He got named on 2 horses in here. We got to go back to that.
Okay, you know what?
Did he end up on the 13?
I will
towards
tell
the
you.
outside. We'll double check that. But taking a look at the number 7 and the favorite and Risk It. The horse does seem to trip out. I mean, it does seem like a stalking type trip, maybe coming from just off the pace.
Yeah, and here's the thing. The other thing I'll do as an idea when I'm trying when there's a race with a bunch of speed in it, just give me the best horse because that horse can typically work out either scenario, and that's how I feel about Risk It. I'm not going to pick Risk It at a short price. I'm going to actually go with the 3 plausible denial. But I do think that Risk It is the type of horse that can make his own trip in here regardless of what they do. And one of the things you get with a Hall of Fame trainer in Steve Asmussen, the winningest trainer in North American history, is their horses are usually well-trained, well-schooled, and can handle situations. They're not one-dimensional types. Steve usually trains one dimension out of horses to teach them to be able to overcome different situations. I think Risk It is an experienced horse that will be able to adapt to any situation he sees today.
It was Harry Hernandez picked up the mount on the 9-horse Red
On the
Pill.
9. So Harry Hernandez on the 9, Christian Torres on the 13.
Good pickup.
Was that an agent? Was that an agent call or is that a jockey's call at that point? When you're named on 2, we talked about agents earlier, but who makes that call at that point?
No, when the entries are done, a rider can be named on 2 horses, one in the body, one on the also eligible, but they got to declare then which one's their first call.
Okay. So first call went to the 13, and the second call went to the 9, and the 13 currently at 8-1. So this is a horse that showed that speed over the turf. Is this the right surface, I guess, would be the question. But when you get a top rider like that siding here, 2 speed horses, maybe he feels like that's the speed of the speed.
Yeah, and again,
Possibly.
we've seen consistently from Christian Torres, he is a guy who lets horses do what comes natural to them. He does not inhibit them. Some riders are more pilot, some are more passenger. Christian is at times, he's a very good passenger.
Taking a look at multi-leg wagers, too. I mean, it's the start of a pick 4. Is this a spread race? Is this a single race? I mean, you got to make a decision one way or the other if you're going to risk it, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this would be a spread race. I think that this is a situation where, a lot of various things can happen. It doesn't – look, I love singling horses more than anyone in the world. It's one of my favorite things to do. Nothing gives me more joy except for when they get beat. But I feel like this is a race in which you want to kind of cast a wider net. But I'll also, not to get too preachy, will say that decision is really a personal decision based on how you feel about the rest of the sequence. If you love a 12-1 shot in the next race, you would be ridiculous to be too confident here and to single a horse or only use 2 and then waste that good opinion later. You have to build your tickets based on what the sequence is telling you and your handicapping opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what's going to happen here in this race. Is it going to be the number 7 in Risk It, or is it going to be some chaos? I mean, you could see some of these big numbers. Is there a huge long shot that was jumping out? Is there somebody massive price that we could say? Maybe the 1, Chris Hartman, Tyler Bacon teaming up, talked about the barn, saw the horse with a little bit late close in the last race. Maybe that barn kind of picks it up in here.
Yeah, listen, a horse that if a lot of speed is signed on and they get a contested pace like we saw in the last race, certainly turning back should be closing.
All right, we're going to find out what happens with that early pace in here. It's race number 7. It's Matt Dinner with the call at Oaklawn.
2 back, Rowdy Riot, and Go Captain. Rowdy Riot goes in. And Go Captain to round out the field. We're ready to go. And we're off. Good break from Risk It. Good beginning from Go Captain from the far outside. Gets into it early and snatches the lead. Go Captain, very quick today. Aggressive. Opens up 2.5 lengths on the gray. Plausible Denial and Risk It. Miracle Worker in that mix. And Red Pill between horses now. Wendelson down on the inside. Miller's Right has been taken back to run about 7 lengths off the lead with Pass Line. Big Producers also there. And Zeka Diabo Park Deep trying to advance position and get a good spot going into the far turn. But he's 5 or 6 pass off the rail as they corner. In the meantime, Go Go Captain just wings it on the lead. Went 21 3/5 seconds for that first quarter mile. That's moving on this dirt here in Hot Springs at Oaklawn. It's still Go Captain, the leader by 2. Plausible Denial on the inside, sent hard from that position. Miracle Worker is next, and Risk It is in trouble here between horses, losing position. Wendelson on the grandstand sides producing a bid, and Wendelson's coming storming down the center of the track. Go Captain, after the fast pace, is coming back to Wendelson and apprentice Tyler Bacon, who breezed right on by. And Wendelson is kicking away. Wendelson by 2, by 3. Wendelson in the Ruiz Racing colors scores. Go Captain holds second, Rowdy Riot third, and then Miller's Right and Plausible Denial.
And there you see Wendelson getting the job done from off the pace, from a rail draw, tipping towards the outside, but the 13 broke like a rocket ship out of the gate, got right to the front and set very fast fractions.
Yeah, showed wicked speed, but Wendelson, in the middle of the turn, I picked him up, and he was traveling so nicely under Tyler Bacon, and it just came with this tremendous rally down the middle of the track. And I liked on the gallop out, Tyler Bacon giving his horse a nice pat, letting him know, man, thank you for giving me such a sweet ride.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not even sure that like when I'm saying pace as like a plural situation, that the whole pace was that fast. They obviously, the fractions were, but it was just one horse. You know, the 13 popped away from there, really opened up, got all the other speed horses chasing off the bridle, and he actually ran pretty darn well to stick around and hang on as long as he could until he got mowed down by a closer.
And we talked about them before going into the gate, but does that, you see a horse break like that out in front, so now that speed has completely outrun your speed. That throws your whole game plan off, and does that really bother all those front-running horses to say, oh my goodness, now everything has completely changed?
Well, especially as he's going so fast, they're trying to keep up, and they're just getting starched chasing. And a horse that likes to be on the lead, when they're having to chase a faster horse, it never works out. It's not like they can change their style midstream.
Chris Hartman does get the victory, and that's a 3-year-old colt by Mendelson. Wendelson getting the victory there at Oaklawn Park. And we're going to talk about some more 3-year-olds when we come back. We'll look back at the best of 2024. Dornick, fierceness, and plenty more on America's Day at the Races.
All right, everybody, welcome to Clayborn Farm. Clayborn Farm has been around since 1910. The tour is a backstage look at how we operate as a large-scale breeding farm. These are parts of the farm that have always been off limits to the public. You know, you would only see these barns and these horses up close if you worked out here. So it's been really exciting to open that to the public, to show that end of the industry and just spread that knowledge. You know, you take a group out, they get to scratch on a mare and foal, they think it's super cool, and hopefully create a lifelong fan. So our stallions stand from anywhere from $5,000 to $100,000. That is a stand and nurse guarantee. So that fee is not paid until the next year after the mare has had her baby, the foal stands, and everything is good. We have conceived 22 Kentucky Derby winners, 19 Preakness winners, 22 Belmont winners, and 29 Breeders' Cup winners. In addition to that, 6 of the 13 Triple Crown winners have been conceived in our breeding shed. So I'm always excited to, you know, spread the knowledge that I've had, share this passion for the breeding industry that I've had basically my entire life, and just spread the wealth. Basically, all of our tours are sold out. That's just absolutely fantastic. Sometimes we'll try to sneak in 1 or 2 extra people onto the trolley. It's a yearling colt field. Actually, this field is home of 2013 Kentucky Derby winner Orb, as well as Breeders' Cup Classic winner Flame. The cemetery is extremely popular. It's on both types of tours that we offer, so the trolley tour and the walking tour. People travel from all over the world to see Secretariat's grave. So it's really exciting to see people's reaction to seeing that. Secretariat, the 1973 Triple Crown winner. I just want to thank everybody for coming on this tour. This is a tour that we've been really excited about. We're really excited to open up this side of the operation to the public. I think Clayborn is just absolutely iconic when it comes to horse racing. I don't think you can think of horse racing without thinking of Secretariat and Clayborn Farm.
And today's races are brought to you in part by Clayborn Farm. 100 years of doing the usual, unusually well. Great shot there overhead of Clayborn Farm. Race number 7 from Oaklawn Park. Just saw that one concluded, and it was Tyler Bacon. For the last time, there's some marketing opportunities there with the last name like Bacon here at horse racing. But Wendelson, 3-year-old Colt by Mendelson, gets to the winner's circle from off the pace, and we saw just one rocket ship really go right out to the front, and Tyler Bacon gets the job done there in a nice return. Got bet down to 9-2.
Yeah, source was 8-1 as they were heading to the starting gate. Took a ton of late money. I've been impressed. There's a lot of apprentices at Oaklawn Park. Paul LaDuca was talking about how many apprentices are lined up there, but Tyler Bacon's made a nice impression from what I've seen so far.
Well, he can find himself on a Derby contender. I'm sure that give Oscar Mayer a call or somebody and get something on those pants, huh?
I mean, it is the opportunities. I'll tell you what, Tyler, he's on the right road. All right, race number 8, $130,000 purse. Allowance optional claiming race at that $50,000. Couple scratches in here. Scratch of the 4th and the 6th. Synthesis, but you do see Race Kane, a name we should be familiar with. Christian Torres aboard the 1, currently 6-5.
Yeah, Race Kane, a Gotham Stakes winner a few years back, scratched out of a sprint yesterday to go the mile here and gets a good, advantageous inside draw, especially going a mile at Oaklawn.
It's always tough when you're on those Derby trails type of horses. They get overbet for the rest of their careers because of that name recognition. Everyone pays so much attention.
Speaking of those Derby trails and some 3-year-olds that we got a chance to take a look at, and taking a look at some of the best horses that we did see in 2024. And, of course, let's go right to the Belmont Stakes that you guys saw, that we saw right there at Saratoga. And what did you think of this effort? Obviously, Dornick showed very, very good heart down towards the inside. Fierceness was in there as well.
Well, one thing you talk about Dornick, you're going to talk about what a fighter he is. He's a horse that does not like to get past. He's a street fighter. He reaches down, gives you all he can, and he won the only edition up to this point, that'll change soon, of the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
No, he was really good on this day, and he came back and kind of proved who he was in the Haskell as well, to have a couple of Grade 1 wins. And yeah, that's the thing I could think about him. He was a tenacious kind of front-running type that wasn't going to let horses pass him.
Yeah, another horse that did have that same success there at Saratoga, and that was Fierceness, who we were also talking about. And Fierceness just really kind of took that time off. He was the hot horse coming in, then he came back, and then he really stamped himself into Travis.
Yeah, and listen, I do think that he was aided by outside posts, because he's a horse that, kind of likes to be a bit free running. Not that he needs the lead, but I like the fact that when Torpedo Anna came calling, it felt to me like he bore down and found a bit more. I think that idea that he's a horse that needs everything his own way maybe went by the wayside. He showed fight this day.
Well, I think I remember Maggie Wolfendale talking to Johnny after the Jim Dandy, and what they kind of learned about him was that he's the type of horse that they would try to pop away from there with him and then grab him and try to restrain him, and he resented that. So I don't think he necessarily, in the Breeders' Cup, I mean, the fractions that he set, he was just free running, though. I don't think he has to have things his own way. I just don't think he wants to fight with his rider, and I think Johnny's figured that out about him.
Well, and when a horse breaks a step slow or just doesn't break as sharp, when you're between horses, your natural inclination as a rider is to go, come on, get up in the race. And with a horse like that, once you do that, now he wants to do more. Now you're going to get into a fight with him. So you saw Johnny being much more careful the way he broke and just being quiet and allowing him into his stride.
We saw Dornick and Fierceness, and they were both very impressive right here in New York and right here over the same surfaces there at Saratoga. But then another horse that changed surfaces went over to the turf as we switched over the turf, and that's Clayborn, another one with early speed.
He was my biggest surprise of the year on a number of occasions. What he did in the Jaipur was one of the most brilliant turf sprints I've ever seen. And then he just continued to run well and overcome adversity throughout the year. And then he surprised me equally with how poorly he ran in the Breeders' Cup. I thought he was one of those horses that was a foregone conclusion in that race, in that Breeders' Cup. And he's an outstanding horse. He did some really cool things, and he had some huge moments throughout the year.
Speed is what made him successful. I think his speed might have been slightly his undoing in that Breeders' Cup, because he maybe just went a bit too fast, almost too fast for his own good. But you want to talk about brilliant speed on speed.
And then we talked about the older male division. We were talking about the older division in horse racing, and we saw one in the Whitney Stakes. We saw Arthur's Ride. Good campaign, 4 of 9 in his career. But this victory in the Whitney was really something to watch.
It was, and again, using that speed as his weapon. And the only surprise out of this, I mean, he ran so big this day, was that this was Bill Mott's first Whitney Stakes in all the years of him training horses. I didn't think there was much left missing on his resume, but the good Arthur's Ride showed up that day, wasn't able to back it up, though.
I would have lost that trivia about Bill Mott not having won a Whitney prior to this. But he was good. He was good on this day. He was good on the undercard of Belmont Stakes, or that week, excuse me, the Belmont Stakes. But he just never really got it going after this race. He's kind of I feel like maybe a very good horse, but a little bit of a one-trick pony, kind of getting loose on the front end. And if he's not able to do that, it's a little bit harder for him to show who he really is.
A lot of great moments there in 2024, and more to come in 2025 as we're going to see some of those familiar names right back here, right behind us, here in the spot, Saratoga, of course. And we've got Tampa. We're going to head to Oldsmar because we got a turf race. We're right on top of it. The 10th race scratches towards the outside. A field of 10 in here as they get set to close things out on their card. But taking a look at this 10th race and taking a look at this 1 mile race on the turf, maiden $16,000 level. Where'd you guys end up? Because you got a lukewarm favorite towards the outside in the 10, and that is, of course, number 10, Wolf Beach. Samuel Marin, we saw it yesterday, Jose Delgado trainee, does show some speed on the turf. 2 starts back at that maiden special weight. Is that going to be enough at 5-2?
Listen, he pulled it off yesterday from an outside draw. I don't see him doing it as the favorite. I like the 6 horse. I think the 6 just ran against much better here in New York and takes that significant drop in class, making the first start for Kathleen O'Connell.
Yeah, the 6 dignified response, 2-year-old colt by Instagram, is New York bred, as you just talked about, Antonio Gallardo. JK, what did you see in here? I mean, there's some kind of staying at the same level, some dropping a little bit from that maiden special weight. lots of different ways to go. 5-2, you probably need something a little more than that.
Yeah, I thought the 2 Nuplex was interesting, drawn towards the inside. I think that when you can, and has just a smidge of tactical speed, I think if you can have tactical speed drawn inside, you can usually work out an okay trip because you have that tacticalness to get out of a bad spot or to stay in a spot. And I think if Nuplex can kind of pop away from there, hold that inside position, save ground, maybe get that pocket trip that you love to see in turf racing. I much prefer that at 7-1 than the 5-2 you're getting on the favorite.
The 9 is currently taking some money. Calvin's Ride 3-1. This is a horse that is run in New York, and John Terranova's got this runner there. Pablo Morales. This horse was a huge long shot running up here. Now goes down south, and this horse is getting some respect. Currently 3-1 off of those big priced efforts there. Last time almost 71, over 7-1.
Well, again, just taking that significant drop in class. Now, this is a New York bred, as is the 6 Dignified Response, but they're New York breds that want turf. And obviously this time of year, our turf course is under that layer of snow out there. So Connections bringing them down there where they can compete on the surface they prefer.
And then you got a first-time starter in the 4 and Take Your Medicine, Sammy Camacho. We've talked about him, one of the leading riders on that circuit, but maybe a horse for Darian Rodriguez. Midnight Storm, he could obviously get the job done on turf.
Yeah, first-time starter going a mile, though. To me, that's always a bit of a dubious proposition. I want horses with some experience.
The 2 really acting up in the gate. We've got 2 left to load. Jason Beam is going to have the call here, the 10th and final at Tampa Bay Downs.
Here's Bitterly once again up to gate 5. Now Bitterly goes forward. Wolf Beach and Samuel Marin, our Mother's Restaurant Jockey of the Month award winner. Samuel Marin has had a great few weeks here. Tampa Bay Downs had another winner today. And right now he's 3-1 to win the finale with Wolf Beach to the outside draw. Wolf Beach goes up and in. They're in the gate. And the race is on. Take Your Medicine out quickly, goes out to the early advantage. Wolf Beach up from the far outside is quick as well. And between them comes Calvin's Ride. As they come into the stretch for the first time, Wolf Beach just in front of Calvin's Ride, who tries to hold that position. Take Your Medicine now back 3rd. Length and a half more back to Vino Coraggio. New York Fog, they race 4th and 5th as they run toward that turn. Bad Mammer Jammer is 6th in the black colors toward the inside, about 6 or 7 off the top. It's another half length then back to Dignified Response in the green, who's 7th. After that comes Nuplex Bitterly, and it's 3 more back to Hyper Venom, who's the early trailer, about 14 lengths front to back. As they roll on to the back stretch, 23 and 2/5 seconds for Wolf Beach from the outside down to the rail, has the lead by a half a length. Up on the outside comes Calvin's Ride closer from 2nd. New York Fog is 3rd in the blue and white colors, about 2 off the top. Then comes Vino Coraggio. Take Your Medicines inside of that one. They're 4th and 5th. It's a break of 2 more back to Dignified Response, who's all alone in 6th. Break of 2 more after that to Nuplex Bitterly. Hypervenom's out of last. Bad Mammer Jammer is now the trailer. Up front company for Wolf Beach, though, is Calvin's Ride right up alongside. They got that opening half at 48 and 3. Calvin's Ride pokes a nose in front. Wolf Beach tries to counter back toward the inside. They're 2 in front of New York Fog, who's in 3rd. Trying to make up some ground out wide. Nuplex, Vino Coraggio going to go toward the inside. Then comes Dignified Response as they come to the top of the stretch. Calvin's Ride on the outside, still narrowly in front. Battling on Wolf Beach toward the fence. They're 3 clear of Vino Coraggio, who's now up to 3rd. Nuplex continues to march forward. Hyper Venom's got some run, but still has to make up 5 in the final 16th. Calvin's Ride, a stubborn Wolf Beach on the inside. Vino Coraggio trying to pick them up from just in behind Calvin's Ride. Calvin's Ride looking for the wire. Hyper Venom late. Calvin's Ride got it. Hyper Venom up for 2nd. 3rd ended up close between Vino Coraggio and Wolf Beach.
Drop in class does the trick there as Calvin's Ride just holds off. The oncoming rush there from Hyper Venom from far, far out of it, but the 9 gets it done. Wasn't sure what the off price was there, but, coming from New York, big drop in class, does the trick, wins, and this made $16,000 level.
And we see this the last 2 days at Tampa. It seems like you want to be forward on the turf there. The 1 did make up a ton of ground, but the 9 just got a little better trip being forwardly placed under Pablo Morales. And John Terranova's got horses in Tampa. I think he's got horses up at Palm Beach Downs. He's got some in New York. I mean, he's pretty well spread out. Terrific horseman. Nice to see him get it done.
Racing's funny. Horse was 73-1 last time in New York. Does no running. Goes down to Tampa. Gets in an easier spot and wins.
big win there to close things out at Tampa. We still got plenty going on at Oaklawn. Honorable Miss winner, Spirit Win makes her Oaklawn debut when we come back on America's Day at the Races.
The only colt ever to win 3 one-mile Grade 1s on dirt. Ran the fastest buyer of the year. That's him, 6 wide, streaking clear.
Here comes Cody's
2 more Grade 1s at 7/8. Here's his forego, also running a 112 bite. That's 5 Grade 1s all told. No other son of Sires Curlin has so many. They say, be careful what you wish for. We agree.
It's America's original sport, and no one covers it better than americasbestracing.net. From the sport to the lifestyle, the best races, horses, and destination venues, cocktails, gambling, fashion, and more. americasbestracing.net is a sport for you.
Twirling Candy, proving Lane's End's stallion-making tradition. Twirling Candy has seen success on the track and in the sales ring, siring multiple Grade 1 winners and millionaires including Exalted, Ice Cream U-Screen, AG Bullet, and Walkathon, and reaching 7-figure yearling and 2-year-old sales. Twirling Candy, a leader of his generation.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
Back here on America's Day at the Races, and gorgeous evening there as you start to see the sun set. Nice outside here in our New York studio, South Ozone Park and Aqueduct, but still bringing all the great racing action here on FS2. Jonathan Kinchin, Richard Migliore, and me at the desk as we get set for the 8th race now. Flying right through this card at Oaklawn Park. Still fast main track. Race King continues to take the action, and there is the one, currently 8-5.
Yeah, he's going to try to go the mile here. Went 9 furlongs last time. Will be finishing.
There's the 2 Blue Devil.
Yeah, stretching back out after trying sprinting. Maybe just a race to get started off 11-month layoff.
The 3 Tonka Warrior here.
A lot of turf races, but that dirt race 3 back is pretty impressive.
And the 5 is going to be Osborne Scratch of the 4.
Yeah, a horse that has some speed with Ricardo Santana.
Scratch in the 6 Synthesis, horse we've seen run right here at Aqueduct, but the 7 is going to be Ethereal Road.
Yeah, a horse that last time got a nice trip after adding the blinkers.
Yeah, the outside runner is going to be the 8, Julian Leperoux aboard Dennington.
Yeah, for Kenny McPeak, who's Julian down there riding a horse that's when he's good, is a good closer, is 0 for 3 at Oaklawn, but a third to show for all those efforts.
1 mile is the distance. I'm getting used to saying $130,000 is the purse here in race number 8, 5 minutes away. Paul, what'd you think here? A couple scratches, but Raise Cane taking all the money.
Yeah, Raise Cane is taking all the money. And, listen, do you want to take a horse that hasn't won in a year at 3-2 and is trying something new, going to put the blinkers on? And I'm wondering where he's going to sit in this whole equation, whether he's going to be back or if he's going to get sent from the rail position or just try to get position, I would think, and maybe sit in that first flight or second flight right behind somewhat of the leaders. As you look at right there, the prices there from Tampa as the 9 did get home there, Calvin's Ride. When you look at, this rest of the field, Raise Cane, I get it, but I can't play the horse at 3-2. So now I look at the 2 Blue Devil, who did no running last time out. I think second time the Steve Asmussen barn is one of the most underrated angles for years, and I think this horse will improve immensely. So I think the 2 has got a big shot here at 9-2. I'm surprised the 2 bottom horses. Ethereal Road, I get it. Ran a giant race in the Sweezy barn. I got to sit up, but that was the first time this horse ever had blinkers. And he had been working well going into the race. And then the 8 Dennington for a hot barn in Kenny McPeak. I actually thought Dennington would be the favorite in here, but, they're going with Raising Cane, but I'm not. I'm going to go with Dennington on the outside. I think you're getting a great price on a barn that's hot right now, and Kenny McPeak at 9-2.
And Paul likes the number 8 outside. Dennington, not a ton of speed, it looks like on paper, but we do see some back class. Some of these horses just trying to find the right spot. And you got 5-2 right now on the 2 in Blue Devil.
Yeah, just ticked down from 7-2 by Uncle Mo, who unfortunately we lost earlier this week. And I just thought a really interesting horse. Came off 11-month layoff, a 5-year-old. They usually need a race to shake off that ring rust and getting back to a more appropriate distance. I thought he made some sense.
Yeah, I don't want to pass over the Uncle Mo thing. He was one of my favorite racehorses. I thought his debut was still one of the best debuts I've ever seen. His Breeders' Cup Juvenile was sensational. The story that came along with him when he came back after kind of having that rough internal, I think it was like a liver, he had like an internal belly situation that affected his 3-year-old year, and he's been an outstanding sire. He was such a cool horse.
We were talking about it yesterday, Chris, how he passed along that unique stride of his, running with his head out and down, covering a great deal of ground, and just wonderful mechanics. And, a lot of times you don't need to look at the pedigree. You can look up and say, oh, that's an Uncle Mo, just the way they carry their head and the way they stride.
Yeah, lasting legacy. It's going to go on years and years and years, right? Because you're going to be able to see the way the foals are born and where kind of just his lasting legacy through the sport for some time.
Oh, absolutely. And we see it quite often, as horses, kind of fade. Their offspring aren't racing as much, but we start seeing how they are as broodmare sires. And he's proven certainly a strong influence on the breed.
The number 7 Ethereal Road, a 5-year-old by-quality road, wins by 8 lengths and got respect from a morning line standpoint when you're taking a look at the morning line, but this horse is currently 7-1, so this horse has really floated up. But you take a look at this effort on November 6th, and what did we take from this effort? And, do you feel like this is what we're going to see here this afternoon?
Sloppy racetrack, perfect trip. Jump Up is one of his lifetime best races. It's one of those performances I don't necessarily trust. He was facing lesser, and I think that the tote board and him being 7-1 is a little bit more of the public agreeing with that notion. I do think that if he can show some speed, he's interesting here from at least some sort of a pace standpoint. But I think the 5 Osborne is the one that'll probably take advantage of that, stretching out from the 6.5 and having speed from a pace figure standpoint in the 6.5 races. If Osborne wants the front with Ricardo Santana, Osborne will get the front.
Yeah, sprint speed. I mean, this horse is attending the pace last time, 22-1, 44, and 4. What are they going to go the half mile here? 47 and change? I mean, that's considerably slower than what he just dealt with.
Is it a fair question to ask? And they don't have a turf course at Oaklawn Park, and so when you see these horses coming off of sloppy track efforts and muddy efforts, do some of the connections sometimes kind of want an off track? Maybe they don't always want a fast track. If you see a horse can really excel, and we've talked about how sometimes we look at the screen, we feel like it's always muddy, it's always raining. At some extent, there's some sort of moisture in the ground. Do connections even think about that?
Well, I think they do. I think the majority of the time a horse that is good in the mud is just a horse that's confident in their stride. They don't lose confidence in off-going. Very few horses are actually better in off-going. It's just the other horses maybe aren't as good, right? And they can maintain the level that they have on a fast track. Notable exceptions. I mean, years ago, there was a horse named Cintillo here in New York. When it rained, you just go to the bank. He was a mud-loving freak.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, I think when it comes to that, I've always, and look, I've never sat on their backs, and Rich, you would know more. I've also think that style helps horses like that. Horses that are forward, that have speed, they do better, I think, on sloppy racetracks than horses that want to come from out of. There's just a lot more variables, right? The kickback's more intense. It's and I think that sometimes horses, it's their style that helps them along.
And Rich, there was one thing you told me, too. When you were out there and you were in the post parade and as a jockey, when you're going out there and take a look at some of the other riders, you could tell from the goggles. You could tell how many goggles they were wearing.
Yeah, I would always pay attention to little things like that. This guy's only got 2 goggles on today. That tells me he's going to be forward. He's not worried about running out of goggles, right? Oh, heck, man, he's wearing 4 or 5 goggles. It's on a fast track. I guess maybe they're experimenting today. They're going to take back a little further. That's why I always wore the same amount of goggles every time. I didn't want anybody to be able to kind of handicap that. And I always wore 3 unless it was a sloppy track. But because one day a horse in front of me threw a shoe, and the shoe caught me right square in the goggles, and it broke the first 2 pair, but didn't get through the 3rd pair. So I said, okay, well, 2 will save me from getting an eye taken out or something.
Wow.
But
800 things to think about in the running of a race. You just think they just run around. That is not what happens at all. Race number 8 is coming up here at Oaklawn Park, and Matt Dinnerman, good competitive field. We'll see if Raise Kane can get back to the winner's circle. Race 8 at Oaklawn.
Here's Dennington, goes it. We're ready to go. And we're off. Raise Kane bounced into the bridle right away, and so did Ethereal Road. Between them, Osborne's going to go out and take command, and Osborne's setting a slow tempo here and is pushing the pace now going into the turn. Osborne opens up and becomes a clear leader here of about 1.5 lengths. Ethereal Road taking the 2nd spot. Tonka Warrior between horses. Raise Kane in a pocket to the inside of that pair. Blue Devil 2.5 lengths behind, and 1.5 lengths to Dennington, who has no pace to chase. Opening quarter, let's see, 24 3/5 seconds, just dawdling along for the mile distance. Osborne with no excuses on the lead has a clear time of it. 1 length and a tail is the margin. Ethereal Road taking the 2nd spot clearly. Raise Kane back in 3rd on the rail. Then Tonka Warrior, Blue Devil 1/2 length off of him on the outside, and Dennington the Gray still at the back, just 4 lengths from first to last as they're halfway home. This race will end at the 16th pole. Osborne the leader by 1 length. Ethereal Road on a snug hold, still 2nd, right behind him. Raise Kane on the inside, saving ground as they charge into the turn. Then comes Dennington, who's come under a hard ride. Tonka Warrior, level 3rd with Raise Kane, and Blue Devil got shuffled to the back. And now Keith Asmussen is asking him for more as they round the 4th turn. It's Osborne still on top. Ricardo Santana takes a confident look back, and Osborne attempting to steal it on the lead. Osborne off the turn, 1 length in front of Ethereal Road. Tonka Warrior down the grandstand side. It's Osborne with the lead. In 2nd, Tonka Warrior attempting to reel him in. Osborne 16th to go, holding on to the lead. Tonka Warrior still trying. Osborne's going to get it. Osborne just stole it on the lead. Tonka Warrior's 2nd best. Then Raise Kane and Ethereal Road. The fractions tell the story. It's Osborne. Gate to wire.
And trainer Ron Moquette gets his winner there with the number 5. And Osborne, Ricardo Santana Jr., dawdling fractions. You heard track announcer Matt Dimmerman pointing it out. But the 5 ends up holding off this rush from the 3 Tonka Warrior in the late stages.
made the lead so easily. Osborne slowed the pace down, kind of jammed up the field behind him, galloped along, came home the last 1/8 of a mile in about 11 and 4, under 12 seconds. Hard to pick a horse up when they're going the last 1/8 of a mile that quickly. This was just a real nice front-running ride.
Yeah, it was. Look, the horse obviously did most of the dirty work, but Ricardo sure as heck helped him along there, right? Getting to the front, finding a way to go 49 to the half, but then not. I also think like midway in the turn, Ricardo started to kind of let him run a little bit. Don't like you mentioned earlier, don't try to outkick the kickers, and that's not what he tried to do. I think Ricardo's a great rider. I think he does. I think he learned a lot in that time that he was riding first call for Steve Asmussen. I felt like he learned. In a family full of riders, he learned the ins and outs. He could make mistakes without the fear of getting taken off because he knows he was going to ride it back. I think he learned a lot there, and you can see that in who he is as a rider.
I think that's where a lot of trainers make a mistake. They replace a guy if he makes a mistake. Stick with him because he's not going to make the same mistake twice, and they learn from their mistakes. And if you give a guy confidence, you're going to get the best out of them.
Osborne was entered yesterday, ended up running here today. That ended up being the winning move. Gets the victory there, a front-running score. Osborne, trainer Ron Moquette, the man they call the mayor, right, there at Hot Springs. Yeah. And, of course, Ricardo Santana Jr., they get the job done there in the 8th race. Still a feature coming up in the Poinsettia, and plenty more when we come back on America's Day at the Races.
During Leo McLaughlin's 22-year run as mayor of Hot Springs, starting in 1926, the city became a haven for notorious criminals and gangsters, most notably Al Capone.
A lot of people aren't aware of the fact that in 1931, Las Vegas, Nevada had 5,000 people in it and no high-rise hotels. Everyone was there to build the Boulder Dam, which became the Hoover Dam. At the same time, in 1931, Hot Springs had 20,500 people in it, 22 high-rise hotels, and $100 million in gambling income. The only difference was here in Arkansas, it was illegal, but it was okay.
During the spring, tourists could find themselves rubbing elbows with gangsters and Major League Baseball players.
Everyone year-round could enjoy the hot mineral baths, hunting and fishing and gambling. But in the spring, it was the opening of the live thoroughbred race meet at Oaklawn Park. And man, was it a happening place.
And back here on America's Day at the Races here on FS2, and you see that gorgeous setting there at Hot Springs, Arkansas, and got a chance to check out the Gangster Museum. I got a guy sitting right next to me that got a chance to check out the Gangster Museum.
I actually did check out the Gangster Museum when I was there. Me, Zoe Cadman, Michael Canali, we were all in. It was actually a very fun tour.
Osborne gets to the winner's circle there. Ron Moquette. We saw Chris Hartman pick up a winner. We talked about some of these barns that were just kind of starting off the meet, hadn't picked up a win yet, but you know they're going to turn things around. Osborne, dawdling fractions, right to the winner's circle.
A horse that's capable of going so much faster, gets in an easy frame. His ears are flicking back and forth, waiting for Ricardo to ask him the question, and he sprinted home. Nice effort.
So much of what happens when it comes to people coming into meets like this hot is all of their horses, if they come out of another good meet, their horses don't have the conditions to be as productive, and it usually regulates by the time the end of the meet's over.
Stakes race coming up here after that 8th race. Again, official. Nice return on Osborne if you have the 5, and we've got racing coming up from the Poinsettia. It's going to be a stakes race, $150,000. Some scratches in here, and the money right now is going to be on the 7 and Spirit Win. Horse that we talked about yesterday, a horse that we've covered plenty, and a horse that we saw run in the Honorable Miss right there at Saratoga as well. But taking a look at the 7 Spirit Win, Fernando Jara, 5.5 right distance. You feel like a slam dunk is the favorite?
I think you just got to let her do what she does, and that's be fast. If something happens to outfoot her, at least you don't take anything away that comes easy to her. And one thing I really noticed, her Honorable Miss, which I thought was one of her stronger efforts, Mike Smith rode her with a very loose rein. And sometimes that's indicative, and I'm not saying that's 100% the case here, but it's indicative of a horse that needs to get all their air. And when you put the bit in a horse's mouth, sometimes it changes their head carriage, and they don't breathe the same. The fact that he rode her with a loop in his rein, just throw her head away.
Yeah, and you think going 5.5, kind of send her away from there, let her just get comfortable in her own rhythm. She's got the class, I think, to handle a group like this. And I think she's really going to appreciate the 5.5. I think the 6 was kind of her limit. I think you remember Saf even saying that. He tried the 7, but I think he recognized the 6 is probably where she wants to run. To get a chance to go 5.5 against this group, it's a good opportunity for her.
Nice race coming up there at Oaklawn Park, and we've got 5.5 furlongs. We've got the Poinsettia, and we've got some of the great stakes racing action right here coming up next. You see that nice hotel there at Oaklawn. You can watch all the races from right that spot. We'll have more when we come back on America's Day at the Races.
They come on for the finish in the Pilgrim Stakes. Annapolis by a head.
It is Annapolis in front. It is Annapolis to win the Coolmore Turf Mile.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
Grayson Jockey Club Research Foundation was formed in 1940 with a simple goal: to raise funds for research to enhance the health and soundness of horses. Since then, we've provided millions of dollars to hundreds of projects at universities around the world, leading to major advances in welfare. Our process of selecting and producing peer-reviewed research has become the trusted industry standard. And with your help, we'll be here for many years to come, supporting the health and wellness of all horses.
First and foremost, it's a family operation. It's fun to be a fourth-generation president of Oaklawn and to see how we've grown. We've been in the same location. We haven't had to move across the street. That's kind of neat. It is about racing at Oaklawn. We tell everyone, especially our new employees, it's racing first. My great-grandfather, Louis Sella, built it in 1904. Charles Sella took over after him. John Sella took over after him, and then we had another Charles Sella, my father, take it over, and now we have Louis Sella. We like keeping the same names in the family. It helps with monogramming. I would sit in on meetings even at a young age. My father would take me and say, you know, be quiet and sit in the corner, and I do, and just listen. And throughout my life, I've been involved with racing, and it's always been really a part of me until finally when it was time to move in and commit. You can look at our media guide, which is published online as well, and look at that history. It's remarkable. We've beaten Prohibition, and we've gone through a couple of world wars and Vietnam and depressions, recessions. Truly, the reason we're successful is for the reasons I just said, that we've been able to evolve, we've been able to change with the times. Beyond that, it's racing first, and really the oldest family in racetrack management in the United States, and we're very proud of that, and we're proud of that legacy, and we think that racing is successful and exciting and has a great future if you believe in it, and if you put your heart and soul in it, and you go forward with that mentality. We see that with our employees, we see that with our trainers, our horsemen, we see that with the horse owners that fly in from coast to coast because of the excitement that we have here at Oaklawn.
Yeah, great feature there, and taking a look at the paddock right now as we do take a look at Spirit Wind. But you think about holidays and family right around this time, and we've seen different features, different spots to look at. Mr. Lucella running a racetrack. Talked about Jose Santos Jr., agent, family connection in a racetrack, jockeys with Keith Asmussen. So there's so many different facets that your family can get involved in racing and stay in the sport.
Oh, absolutely. It's a way of life. It's really, you know, no matter what your particular job is, when you're a racetracker, it's a way of life, and you're a racetracker for life.
Yeah, it's so many jobs, so many opportunities in this great sport. And there is the number 7 of Spirit Wind, currently at 8-5, so warranting the favoritism. Did you think it would take a touch more action, though, at that 8-5 number?
No, I mean, she's you know, she hadn't won since Saratoga. So there is a level of disappointment from her at times. She's got some changes. She's taking the blinkers off. There's a couple other ones in here. I think 8-5 sounds pretty fair. To be fair, and I think she might probably drift down a little bit before it's all said and done. But no, I'm not too thrown off by the price.
And Richie, off of this effort here, you see big closers coming after her. But you talked about that loose rein. 5.5 should be right up her alley.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan addressed it. Just 6 furlongs might be her absolute, you know, limit, and now she's getting a 16th of a mile less, and that frees Fernando Yara up. You don't have to worry as much. I got to save a little bit more for that last 100 yards. Use her speed. Let her be fast.
It is going to be Fernando Yara up for the ride. Not going to have Mike Smith as the pilot in this race, but a stakes race nonetheless at Poinsettia. Taking a look at some of the other horses, all mid-range prices. You're not seeing a big long shot anywhere. It seems like the rest of the field is kind of taking a look at Spirit Wind, maybe towards the inside, the one fibber. What do we think about the Chris Hartman trainee? Picked up a win earlier on the card. Rafael Bejarano coming off of that try at Mahoney.
I think she's very interesting. I like her turning back. She's 1-for-1 at the distance. I'm sure she broke her maiden, wasn't a very fast figure, but she's going to be lurking in behind the pace. And Rafael Bejarano seems to excel with these kind of horses. We saw Chris Hartman have a nice win earlier in the day. I think if this to be an upset, Fibber's the one I would be looking at.
Yes, it has some speed from the inside, but it's interesting. What do you do from down there, Richie? You've got a horse in Spirit Wind who seems very likely to go to the front. Do you try to contest that early from that inside post?
No, I wouldn't try to go head and head with her. I don't want to play her game. I'm going to come out running because I believe in getting your position going forward, and make them commit to going. The last thing you want to do when you've got a quality speed horse like Spirit Wind is allow them just to break, fold over, and then go as soft as they want to go. You want them to commit to going, use their speed, and also create separation, right? You don't want the field all bunched up and now you're stuck right in behind them. But I do think there's some other pace in here that at least maybe can make it interesting. Don't you think that the 2 Holly Dolly at times shows good speed?
Yeah, it's another one though that I think that is kind of in that no man's land of what am I going to do here? Am I going to get myself into a bad situation where I get dueled into the ground by a horse who's probably better than me on paper, is probably a little faster than me on paper? It's really actually the 2 inside horses to me are interesting riders' decisions.
Well, Esternia too also has speed. She's outside of Spirit Wind. I want to come out running and hope that someone else takes her on and does the dirty work and sets up a good trip for me.
Spirit Wind was entered in a race at Gulfstream, but they choose to go into this spot. So Saffie Joseph Jr. taking the blinkers off. I mean, is she going to be as sharp? Is she going to be, she's been running consistently. She ran on November 9th, so she's obviously got the contending speed, maybe the top speed in here. With that contested pace, though, and we look back at that effort from Fibber, if Fibber gets that right trip from the rail, just sit right in behind, sit on the rail, tip to the outside, same type of effort, that's what the connections might be looking for?
That's what I would be looking for. And the one thing about it, if you can get right in behind Spirit Wind, you've got to believe it's live cover. It's a horse that's going to carry you. You're not worried about her stopping in your face.
With a rail draw, though, did they make that decision for you? I mean, you're just going to break from the rail and you're just going to sit. I mean, just let that speed come in front of you and then just go ahead and negotiate the type of trip.
I'm going to let my horse run, though. I'm not going to wait for them to just, fold over because, again, that's a good recipe for being 6th instead of laying 3rd or 4th.
All right, 8 minutes away here from the poinsettia, $150,000. Quite a few scratches in here. So, with a race in this spot, maybe choosing some other spots for some of these other horses. We're going to take a look at the post parade in just a second. With the number 1 in Fibber, currently sitting at 3-1, Rafael Bejarano for Chris Hartman. Coming off a 5th, a 3rd, a 2nd, 4 wins, has not seen Oaklawn Park yet, but does like the distance. Where is that post parade coming up? They take a little bit of time coming out on the track there at Oaklawn.
They're in
no
rush.
Trying to get my timing there as far as Hot Springs.
They're in no rush. They got all day.
All right, here we go. There is the 1 in Fibber.
Yeah, it's a horse that has some speed. We'll have to see how they decide to ride this one from the inside.
And the next one's going to be the 2, and that's Holly Dolly. Hiram Diego does show speed and actually has won quite a few starts in a row.
Yeah, she's won 5 in a row, looking for a 6th in a row. Can never discount a horse that's gotten into good form, and she should be forward.
The 3 is High Class, Keith Asmussen.
Yeah, last race was on the turf, but there is some speedy dirt races late last year.
Scratching the 4 and the 5, Laura's Charm and Dealing Justice out. The 6 is going to be Pistol.
Pistol's going to have to bring her A-plus game to be competitive here.
And we're going to talk about Spirit Wind. We've talked about her quite a bit. She's currently still sitting at 8-5. Going to have a new jockey aboard, though, Fernanda Hara.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see her kind of be aggressively sent away from there, and then like Richie's pointed out, then just let her kind of do her thing. Stay away from her mouth, stay away from the reins, and just let her use that natural speed.
Off a second-place finish, the 8 is Esternia.
I think she holds the key to this race because she can have high speed at times, and she's drawn just outside your favorite.
Scratches up the 9, 10, and 11, so the outside runner moves in a touch closer. Royal Spa, Christian Torres.
Get Christian Torres, always a positive, particularly there at Oaklawn Park, coming off of a couple of runner-up finishes back-to-back against the likes of Sheeta Booty and last time in the Chaluki to 2 Sharp, well beaten in both.
5.5 furlongs is the distance. The poinsettia. Paul, what do you think? We've talked about Spirit Wind quite a bit. Is it all Spirit Wind or is it somebody else?
I don't know, Chris. I will tell you this. She handled the prelims just absolutely perfectly. She stood in her stall, absolutely perfect. Where the 8-horse, she was full of gusto. My goodness, it took Randy Morse a little while to calm her down. So as she was going a little bit wild, the 7 was just standing in her paddock, minding her own business, showing a lot of professionalism. And, when the 8 came out to the track, I tell you what, she looked like she was ready to go through a wall. So I think Mig might be right with Esternia. She might blast out of there and try to throw some speed. Now, she did calm down a little bit when she got on the racetrack. She just wanted to get away from the pony and get out here and start loosening up her legs. But I just love the way Spirit Wind just handled herself in the prelims, taking the blinkers off, too. And the last time she did have the blinkers off, she did have a W. And, you know, when Safi was, you know, quoted to coming here with a lot of his horses, you know, he originally had 20 stalls. They cut down to 10, but he thought, you know, his 10 best that he was going to ship over. And I think Spirit Wind's going to make a very, very good account of herself. Now, the inside horse, Fibber, you know, Jonathan makes a very good point. What's going to happen? Because the one time the one did have the rail, the horse broke dead last. And sometimes that can be a tricky position, having the 1 hole or the 2 hole. So that's why I looked at the 12 in here for a Royal Spa, for Rudy Brissett, and a horse that is cutting back for 1 mile and 7 furlongs, but I think can stay intact. This is a horse that she had gait issues way back when. It looks like Rudy has solved those gait issues. And I think now Christian Torres gets aboard. I think she can rate from a little bit off the pace in here and be able to run some of these horses down. Fibber to me is very interesting. I think the 1 and the 8 are the other 2 horses here. I just didn't love the way the 8 acted in the post parade. I think the 12 is a very good price here at 4-1. I'd actually go 7-12, 12-7 for me.
Thank you very much, Paul. And taking a look at this field for today's 9th. And how about the 3 high class? Is this a horse that we're just kind of riding off too quickly? Look at the work pattern coming in, and you see the connection, Steve Asmussen, Keith Asmussen. You see the win there in the poinsettia, and you see that this horse, you know, from a work pattern standpoint at least, seems like they said this is a spot. You see a bullet work there on November 30th, and then right up on the race, best of 141 works there, 3rd best at 47-4.
And she won this race last year. She's the defending champion, right? And she won it last year as your favorite. A little bit of, I think, a tougher race this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love the fact that Steve tried her on the grass the last 2 times, as if maybe that was him saying that that's what she wants to do. But now we're at Oaklawn, so here, you know, we're going to run on the dirt. She's got some back races that could make her a problem in here. But the issue is that her best path to victory, based on what we've seen from her, is the exact same style as the 7 Spirit Wind. And that, to me, doesn't bode well for her.
The 6 Pistol is another horse sitting there at 9-1, and we get a chance to take a look at quite a few of these. But we're looking at Fibber right now and just taking a look at the horse on track. And we've talked about this horse with the right trip. Anything that you've noticed when the horses have come on track, Richie, that you really kind of stand out to you as far as how she looks?
You know, it's always a little bit more difficult trying to discern that on television. She's making a really nice impression. I like when horses frame up properly, right? They use themselves properly. Now, she is a gray daughter of Frosted. I love horses with that white, that gray streak in their tail. Vast majority of them can really, really run. And she's already proven she can run. I mean, she's earned over $460,000, but I just love when I see that streak in a horse's tail.
Taking a look at Fibber still there at that 7-2, and you see Spirit Wind just walking by your screen, and taking a look at some of the other horses in here and taking a look at some of these fillies and mares. But there is the 7 Spirit Wind. What do we make of her? I mean, taking a look at her honorable miss run and taking a look at Fernando Jara being aboard for the first time, maybe some small question marks, but Safi Joseph Jr. has done very well with female sprinters as well in this division.
Yeah, absolutely. And she did all her training in South Florida. Now she ships to a climate that's a little bit cooler, and that's usually a positive. Horses excel in cooler weather. You know, they manage the heat, but they actually flourish when it's cooler.
I think the 5.5 is what's key for me with her. I think she's going to love the 5.5. I think it's going to fit her style perfectly. I think they're going to be able to be aggressive with her. I think that in her previous races, when she's tried 7 or even when she's tried 6, with 6 being the ceiling, they're still always in the back of your mind. I got to kind of work out a nice trip for her, or she'll get tired on me late. But I think with the 5.5, it's just not really a concern. Each pop away from there, and I think that's what they're going to do. I'm excited to see her kind of run with a kind of a freer style here today.
And there is the 8 Esternia, was acting up in the paddock as Paul was talking about. And what do you think about her temperament now that she's been on track and she's able to kind of relax a little bit and kind of get out in her environment?
It looks like she settled in a bit more. I think a mistake a lot of riders make when they have a horse that's nervous is they don't warm them up. And I think it's important, especially when a horse is nervous, to warm them up, because they dispel some of that nervous energy. Get a good gallop into them, then let them kind of get a breath and settle in, but at least they get a little bit of that nervous energy out of their system.
You also just saw the 12 in Royal Spa run by, or walk by, I should say, but Too Sharp, finishing behind Too Sharp in the Chalukli last time and coming off of those efforts at Churchill Downs. Maybe this is a horse that we're not giving enough credit to here at that 7-2. This is a horse that's going to have that outside draw. You get Christian Torres, Rodolphe Brissett. You talked about the efforts behind two horses that are very, very sharp and top class.
You know, and this is a filly that at times doesn't break as sharp. And she has broken a step slow even with an outside draw. But at least she's not going to run the risk of getting pinched between two horses. It still gives her an opportunity to find her stride, even at a short distance, like 5.5. I think she's the most likely upsetter. I'm in full agreement with Paul. I just think that the race could shape up. And if it gets really heated on the front end, despite it only being 5.5, she would be the biggest beneficiary.
She's going to need him to run in front of her a little bit. If you look at her past performances, the 8 and the 7, you know, she's usually running kind of those extended 7, 8 furlongs, you know, extended one-turn races, which makes me think that this 5.5 is going to be a little sharp. However, if she gets the right pace to close into, then obviously that can go a long way. But the other thing, too, is this is her first opportunity to try 5.5. And sometimes it reminds me of, this isn't a comparison to Elite Power, but it reminds me of Elite Power when he was a late-running 7 furlong. People thought he was a late-running sprinter. They thought 7 was better for him, but he was actually better going 6. It kind of sharpened up his run, and it kind of intensified his run. There's a chance the same could happen with Royal Spa. Maybe that closing kick is actually going to be better going the 5.5, and we'll find out here in a couple of minutes.
And the 6 pistol, I mean, we talked about quite a few of the horses in this field, but the 6 pistol, Francisco Arrieta, seen him pick up a couple winners. Where do you put this horse? This horse hadn't run 6 October, short layoff, Tom Van Berg, you know, decent half-mile work coming in. This horse does run well off the layoff, though. It seems to run well fresh, and this horse is going to be a big price at 12-1.
And this horse wins, though. This horse is either on the lead or head-and-head for the lead. And I just have a hard time seeing her have that kind of speed with this group. I could be 100% wrong about that, but she's going to have to work for it if she does it.
The poinsettia's coming up. Pick?
I'm going to go with the 7 Spirit Win.
12, Royal Spa. Maybe she's going to get the setup.
All right, here it is. Matt Dinnerman with the call.
Ready to go. And they're off in the Poinsettia Stakes. They all broke in a straight line. High Class gets the first call. Esternia was away alertly. Spirit Win the favorite between that pair, not far off as they head down the backstretch. Pistol in the 4th position, Fibber down at the rail, and then comes Royal Spa, Holly Dolly, side by side, just 3 lengths from first to last as they approach the 4-turn run. High Class off the layoff is fresh, but has a challenge from Esternia, who's right there, and these two lock horns with 3 furlongs to go. 2 back to Spirit Win. She's gotten a good trip if she's good enough to win from a stalking position, getting closer to the top pair, rounding the turn. Fibber is staying on the rail and has some run. High Class loses the lead in the meantime to Esternia, who kicks on. Spirit Wind on the grandstand side, ready to pounce if she's good enough. They're down the lane. Esternia in charge. Spirit Wind is asked for her best. High Class third. Fibber right behind them. Esternia digs in on the front end. Spirit Wind alongside, now bearing down, and Spirit Wind has taken command. Fibber the gray coming to the outside for a final try, but it's Spirit Wind. Spirit Wind, Fernando Jara to win the Poinsettia. Second home, Fibber, then Royal Spa and Esternia.
And it was Spirit Wind, just off the pace, and Fernando Jara getting the victory there, 7-1-12.
Yeah, I mean, showing a little bit of a different dimension. She's won from just off the pace in the past, but you know, she got outrun from the outside. High Class showed good speed from the inside. Esternia outran her, and Fernando was able to ease her in the clear. And she's just a little bit better than this group.
Okay.
Yeah, look, she got a really nice trip, and she sat right in behind these horses. You know, she broke well. She wasn't fast enough to make the lead. She wasn't encouraged to make the lead, and she ended up working out a really nice trip. I just think that she was better than these horses, and I think that 5.5 and 6 are her games.
Let's go to Paul right now. He's got the connections.
I'm with assistant trainer here, Alexa Gastel, who brought down some horses here for Safi Joseph, and you went right after the wire.
Yeah, we took the blinkers off, so every time you do an equipment change on a horse that has been winning already, historically with it on, you get a little nervous. But Fernando did a great ride. He had her up towards the lead like we planned. It was patient. She was relaxed on the front end, and then she fired and we got there.
Did you think she was going to be able to rate off horses?
Yeah, we hope so. I mean, she's speedy and she's quick, but sometimes she goes too fast. So it was a little bit better to have her be able to take that breath, and I think it worked out.
Go get your picture taken. Congratulations on your first stakes win at Oaklawn.
Thank you.
Great job there. Safi Joseph Barn getting the job done, and Spirit win from just off the pace. Fernando Hara, first time aboard, and it's always nice to get right to the winner's circle when you're the first time aboard the horse for the first time.
Well, and in a high-pressure situation, right? You're on a big favorite in a stakes race. First time you're riding a horse. You want everything to go well, but Fernando Yara worked out a good trip, and kind of goes along with the theme of when we do features on somebody, they win. We did a feature on Jose Santos Jr., his agent, earlier, and Fernando gets it done.
It's funny. It's one of those situations with her where it's like if there was a bunch of 5.5 furlong dirt sprints, greatest stakes in this country, you know, she'd probably win a few more of those. But when she gets into the deeper waters with the tougher races going 6, it's just right at her limit, especially when she's facing horses that might be better than her. But if she could find a bunch of these little 5.5s against these types of horses, her style to keep her connected in races goes a long way.
She went over $700,000 in earnings with this victory today. So she is a gem of consistency, 8 wins from 16 starts. And, yeah, it's interesting, right? Years ago, you would get basically no 5.5 furlong races on dirt except for 2-year-olds. And now at least you have a few sprinkled around here and there.
Yeah, or an off the, I feel like it's an off the turf at Saratoga.
5-year-old mare gets the job done there, wins the stakes race, wins the poinsettia there at Oaklawn Park. As we get to come back, we're going to take a look at never too early to start thinking Derby. Who's going to hoist that trophy in 2025? We saw a great running of the Derby in 2024. What's coming up next? America's Day at the Races returns.
If you walk around the Oaklawn backstretch, you'll notice that the barns don't have numbers. The barns instead are named in honor of horses significant to Oaklawn's rich history.
Here come two champions, side by side. Heavily prized to the outside, and Pansiana right there. And Senora flies to the lead in the middle of the track. And it's Monty Jones, one step forward to Kentucky, and one giant step to $5 million. It's time to make some memories. American Pharoah, breathtaking in a mesmerizing performance. The Oaklawn Handicap and #1 rating will go to Cigar by 2.5. The champion Azeri, here she comes down the middle, and she does it.
40 barns named after 40 important horses, all who helped to contribute to Oaklawn's rich history in their own way.
Curlin is going to decimate this field, winning the Arkansas Derby by 9 lengths. Time to make some memories.
So many racing greats with compelling storylines and ties to Oaklawn.
Whitmore win time, Whitmore!
Welcome back to America's Day at the Races. Another shot, Oaklawn Park, and we saw some of those great horses throughout history there running Hot Springs, and the road to Kentucky Derby will go right through Hot Springs as well. We'll go to Oaklawn Park, but we got still stakes racing action to clean up there at Oaklawn, and that's the 7 Spirit win. And what did you think of this victory? Has shown this ability before, but she just kind of outclassed the rest of the field.
Well, and the way she did it today, too, being outrun from the outside, right, and then having to extricate herself to get to the clear. Fernando Yara did a real nice job, very smooth getting that done. Fibber had to work her way to the clear, came with a bit of a belated rally, and Royal Spa from the far outside finished on a very logical result, and Spirit Wind, her class proved to be a bit too much for her foes.
Yeah, Royal Spa ran well considering. I don't think she wants anything to do with 5.5. I know before the race I suggested that there's a world in which she could like it. I don't think she did, and I think that she ran well despite that. And I think that they'll probably stretch her back out to the 6-7s and the one-turn miles, and she'll make a little bit of noise.
Oaklawn's 10th is coming up, and got a field of 12 in there. Scratch the 13 and the 14, but we got an allowance race, 6 furlongs. Guess what? The first $130,000. This field of 12 looking pretty wide open, though. You have a favorite, very, very 4-1. Looks like Al's Romeo towards the outside.
Yeah, drawn towards the outside. We talked about it a little bit earlier, Richie. Like, I think that when you have some tactical speed like Al's Romeo has drawn outside, it's a great spot to be at Oaklawn. Horses in that kind of 3-4 path seem to run really well.
Yeah, they just kind of get that unencumbered trip. They're allowed to use their stride well, and you're getting Christian Torres, again, a guy who understands about getting horses a forward position.
Speaking of trips, you're going to have a nice trip, and it's going to be a trip if you get to the Kentucky Derby in 2025, and we've seen some really nice efforts from the juveniles so far in preparation for what is probably the most exciting road as you can have. As connections, jockeys, trainers, anything, and there's Citizen Bowl atop the list. You see with 40 points, gaming, getaway cars in there, Jonathan's Way, Chance of McPatrick there, and a host of others all at 10. But looking at this list, I mean, what jumps off the page for you guys?
Well, a horse that maybe, could get overlooked potentially. Citizen Bowl won the Breeders' Cup, but he got, a very sweet trip. When East Avenue stumbled so badly, who appeared to me to be a horse that would have been forward, it changed the complexion of the race entirely. And he was the horse that benefited the most from that, just being able to gallop along on the lead and get very comfortable. East Avenue's a horse I'm very interested in. Because of that stumble, maybe he, will get overlooked a little bit until we start seeing him compete again. But I thought he was very impressive, and he's already won at Churchill Downs.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that, Chris, that when you said, what did I see stand out on that list? I see a couple of horses trained by Bob Baffert.
Yeah.
3 at the top of that list, and that's something that we obviously didn't see for the last couple of years, and glad it's the thing that's been resolved, because I think the Kentucky Derby is better when we have all of the best horses in it. And if you look at the top of this list, Citizen Bull, Gaming, Getaway Car, all very talented horses, but I still like I'm a little East Coast bias here. I still like the Jonathan's Ways, the Chancer McPatrick's, and the East Avenues.
Yeah, speaking of Chancer McPatrick, a horse that's going to come from well off the pace. That's his running style, and taking that into his 3-year-old season as well. Is this going to be the right type of horse with that big, devastating closing kick to really look good in the preps and get into the gate for Saturday, man?
Well, Richie, I mean, I kind of want to set you up on this. With a horse like Chancer McPatrick, when they're going the one-turn miles, the mile and a 16th, they find themselves sometimes a little bit further back. But as the races get longer, as they grow up a little bit, the paces get a little bit faster. Sometimes they can kind of get a little bit closer and not have so much work to do.
Yeah, right, because they're not going to throw that 45 and change, except the Kentucky Derby's a little bit of a different, race where they go too fast a pace for the distance, and it could fit well into a horse like this who proved he can make a long, sustained run, particularly in his hopeful. He started marching about the half mile pulling that hopeful.
Yeah, Flavien Prat aboard, and you see the hopeful winner, the Champagne winner, Chancer McPatrick, with a big chance in the Kentucky Derby. Take a look at 2025 and a host of others. You saw East Avenue in there with the 10 points too. And then you start to go down that list and you start to look at some of the other horses with opportunities, and a horse like First Resort coming out of the Kentucky Jockey Club off of that effort back at the end of November. And this is a horse that could be one of those contenders as well, already running over the surface.
Well, and I'm a believer in that, and particularly Churchill Downs, which some horses don't handle. It cups away from them a lot. That you'll see them kind of skip and bobble. So a horse that's proven that they can be effective over that racing strip, to me, is something I look at. I find important.
At least just one thing when you're looking at when you're handicapping for the Kentucky Derby, there's all these boxes that you're mentally trying to check. Does this horse have the pedigree to go this long? Have they won a big prep? Who's their trainer? Who's their rider? Is it the first jockey's first run? The trainer's first run? You're checking them all. And one of the things you end up getting to at some point, I don't think it makes the hugest difference in the world, but it is one box, is that they've run well over the surface, while a bunch of the other ones haven't ever stepped foot on the surface outside of morning workout. So it is something that's interesting.
There's no cookie cutter way to do this, though, right? Because I'm thinking about Funny Side. Barclay Tagg shipped him in the week of the Derby. He got there as late as you could possibly get there to be on the grounds. The horse galloped 2 days at Churchill Downs, wins the Kentucky Derby. So, I think it's a very individualistic thing, but we have seen horses with good resumes going to the Derby just not show up on that day.
And how many times, as we're going into 2025, how many times does the plan work out exactly as you think? I mean, is extremely rare that everything can work exactly to that point to where you're in the gate.
Oh, it very rarely works out exactly the way you map it out, but if you've got a good horse, you usually overcome it.
Plenty to see in 2025 and plenty to see here when we come back on America's Day at the Races. It'll be the finale from Oaklawn Park.
Introducing a stallion as top class as they come. In 22 career starts, he won or placed in 12 graded stakes, competing in 15 grade ones, earning over $1.7 million. His undisputed speed is evidenced by 7 100-plus buyer speed figures, a 3-time Grade 1 winner, Raging Bull.
These New York-bred foals represent many sires: War Dancer, Salamini, Honest Mischief, Central Banker. But they all have one thing in common. Starting in 2026, they'll be running for the same purse money as Open Company 2-year-olds at NYRA tracks. That's nearly 20% more than they run for now. Learn more about it at nybreds.com.
Down, 350. Here we go. 3 here, 50, down 4, 8.5, in the back. 1,400,000 stands way in the back. Thank you.
$1,500,000 and $1,600,000, $150,000, $1,550,000 and a half. $1,500,000. Jody, thank you.
Please hold your applause.
Charlatan, ultra impressive.
It's a new day for a new king.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
foaling season. Our foaling season starts January. Our first baby was born in January, and we'll have babies clear up until the end of May. So yeah, we are in full swing, starting to get mares back to the breeding shed and start that process back. We foal about 50 mares around here a year, and that's plenty for our little operation because, you know, originally I wasn't really going to get into that, but it's definitely been something that's taken off with the way the program here at Oaklawn's working. It's gotten to be, these Archie breds are starting to be quite a staple here. How our program here works, they foal here, they breed back to one of our stallions that stands in this state. All of our stalls are equipped with cameras, so we will have somebody eyes on all the time. So we want everything to be as natural as possible. You know, we try to assist in any way that we can so that everything goes smooth. It's quite an experience whenever you are involved in the foaling. I mean, to be able to bring in, you know, see the very first day, the very first seconds of these foals' life and the interaction between the mare and the baby, it really does, it's very uplifting and it's very rewarding and reminds you of why you got into this business. And just to be able to watch that process and then be able to raise them and then get to see them at the racetrack, and you know, that first time they get to come into the paddock for their very first race, and it's like a full circle moment. It's very, very rewarding. We've had a great meet this year, and we've probably had 7 or 8 winners this year of our own, and I've had several client horses that were born here, and we all feel like they're just as much ours as it is theirs. The quality of your Arkansas bred horses have really started to change. You're starting to see people not just bring in an average mare, they're wanting to bring their good mares down here to breed and foal and raise and race and get involved in our program, which it's only going to help us and it's only going to help it get better. You know, we've been in it long enough now, like you're taking the time to study your mare and your stallion and what do you think they would look like? What would that baby look like if you put that stallion and that mare together? What kind of runner do you think you'll get? So it's being able to see that and then bring it to life and then be able to be in the winner's circle and see how rewarding that was is definitely the reason I'll keep doing it till as long as I can.
And great stuff there. State bred program's always very important, especially for this meet, for those Arkansas breds, Archie breds, as she said. I mean, this is their meet. This is what they point to as we get set for a bunch of Arkansas breds right here. Took a look at the 1. Here's the 2, Brahms Image.
Yeah, a horse that always runs good at Oaklawn. Arkansas bred coming off a bit of a freshening.
The 3 is Choctaw Zip.
Yeah, a horse that doesn't have a lot of early speed, but does always show up.
And the 4 is going to be Debater.
Debater broke maiden at Louisiana Downs. Hasn't been seen since July when tried turf.
The 5 is Holding Pattern.
Yeah, another one that doesn't have a lot of early speed, but does have a couple of wins here at Oaklawn.
The 6 at 701, Stuck in Snow.
I was looking at this horse in the paddock on TV, and this horse looks ultra sharp for Donnie Von Hemmel.
The 7 is going to be Dicey Wager, 17-1.
Yeah, when you see horses Arkansas breds claimed and then run it, it feels like it was an intentional thing to try to get involved and get some of this Arkansas bred money.
Here's the 8, Ramon Vasquez will be aboard.
Yeah, another one getting that freshening from September and now gets back to Oaklawn with Arkansas breds. You know this is what they're pointing for.
The 9 is Chrome's Echo.
Yeah, lightly raced horse making his 3rd career start.
Here's the 10, Miri, A Coincidence, currently sitting at 15-1.
Yeah, big price for a horse that has races that would be competitive here.
And the 11 is going to be Where's Randy, trained by Randy Morris.
He's training the horse, I think.
It's currently there at 8-1. That's Rafael Bejarano aboard. And the 12 is going to be the outside runner in Al's Romeo.
Yeah, man, just really strong figures, taking all the money, and you get Christian Torres. Makes a lot of sense.
Keith Asmussen for Rod Moquette on the inside run of the 1 Landlord that we missed there. But, Paul, we've got the Arkansas breds, 5 minutes. The finale is coming up. What'd you take here in race 10?
Well, I thought this was an interesting race, a very difficult race, to be honest with you. In the last race here, it always usually is. You know, when you look at the 2, Brahms Image, I don't think I've ever looked down at a racehorse in a program and seen all 10 starts where the horse is broken right on the nose first. I don't even think I've seen a quarter horse do that. So, I mean, the 2 is an unbelievable gate horse, and I would think he's going to show his speed early here with William De La Cruz. They struck De La Cruz and Dwayne Loy in the second to last race yesterday at a big price. So I would think the 2 has got a a nice shot in here. Now, the one in here, Landlord, Keith Aspen, I was actually sitting right next to Keith when he was talking to Ronnie McQuett, the trainer, and Ron said, listen, it's up to you what you want to do. I would prefer being a young horse and off a layoff. If you can get him off the rail and get him outside of horses, harder, harder to do than he said to do. You know what I mean? Even Ron even told him, goes, if you can get off the rail, get off the rail. I understand it's going to be hard to do, but he thinks he's more comfortable outside horses, and that's the one horse. But the horse is getting played at 5-1. Now the 12, I think Mig hit the nail on the head. The horse fits all the conditions here, Al's Romeo, and is one of the players in here. But I'm going to land on, again, Chris, we're going to go with the last race. Plenty of airports with plenty of holding patterns. But Rocco Bowen and Tommy Swearington, this is another horse that did get a race in between, and both of Tom's horses have fired. He got a little unlucky with one of his horses that went real wide, and I have a feeling this horse will be rolling down the center of the racetrack. Rocco Bowen is the one that likes to make those little kind of middle moves in here, so I'm going to give this horse a big look in here at 8-1.
Paul with the winner yesterday, close things out at 8-1, trying to do it again here with the 5 in holding pattern. Taking a look at this field, what'd you think?
Yeah, well, first of all, pay attention to what Paul says. And yesterday he bailed us out in the nightcap, so and he's done a great job handicapping. I was looking at horses coming off of layoffs at Oaklawn. The last starts at Oaklawn back in the spring, 7 have won off of that kind of elongated layoff, 5 of them being Arkansas breds. So it's obvious, Jonathan, they point for this. The huge purses for horses bred in their home state.
Yeah, you got an Arkansas bred. Why you want to run them at? No offense to our friends at Remington Park, but why you want to run them at Remington Park when you can? Horses only have so many good races.
Yep.
And do you want to waste them or take a chance of injury or setback when you can just take them to the farm, get them ready for next year at Oaklawn, and run them for Oaklawn runs from December until May. There's a bunch of opportunities. You can run them 5, 6, 7 times in that spot for big money, where you also have an advantage because you get to face other Arkansas breds.
I love and listen, I'm a big Ron Marquette fan. I really like the guy. You got the rail, and you tell the jock, in a 12-horse field, I want you off the rail. And then like another trainer will be, well, you got the outside draw. Try to save some ground. It's so funny sometimes as a former rider, some of the instructions you would get. And my favorite instructions, Chris, I want you to lay 4th, 3 lengths off the pace. Okay, if they go 45 or they go a half and 50, you want me 3 lengths off the pace, laying 4th. I mean, you can't be that specific. You can't micromanage. Just tell the guy what the horse likes or doesn't like.
Can you think of any good instructions over the years that saved you? If I didn't get this, when I was getting the leg up, I didn't get this instruction, I wouldn't have won the race. Can you think of any?
No. No. Honestly, if a trainer tells you an idiosyncrasy about the horse, hey, be careful when you hit the front, this horse will lose interest. That's important info. This horse is a little braver outside, important info. Might want to lug in, but to be very specific, you can't inhibit a rider and take away their natural instincts to that point. You hire a person, allow them to do their job, tell them how you'd like to see it go, but don't micromanage.
This is not a shameless plug. I promise you have to hear this. I did a podcast with Angel Cordero, and he told the story. It's his Go Sparky Go story about a horse that he got instructions, and the trainer basically told him like 97 things that you couldn't do, but you can't do this, you got to do this, but you can't do this, you can't do this, and you can't try this. And it's one of the funniest stories I have ever heard.
Well, the takeaway from the story, and I don't know if he finished it, he couldn't hit the horse, couldn't override him. You had to yell, "Go, Sparky, go." So he's in front on this horse yelling, "Go, Sparky, go," and I came and nailed him right on the money, right? And he was mad. 2 weeks later, Angel had to go out of town to ride a stake someplace. I pick up Sparky. I got the same instructions. Yell, "Go, Sparky, go." So we turn for home, and I'm riding the horse, and I start yelling, "Go, Sparky, go. Go, Sparky, go." And now the field's gaining. forget Sparky. I turned my stick over. I went left-handed, right-handed, and he got up and won by a nose. The next day, me and Angel are watching the replay together, and he was even madder. You rode him. The guy said I couldn't ride. No, that was a lady, actually. And, yeah, I said, forget Sparky. I'm going to ride the way I know how to ride.
Great stuff here on the finale from Oaklawn Park, and we have a field of 12 getting set to go. Board hasn't changed much. You've seen 3-1. Al's Romeo has kind of stayed right at that 3-1 price. You do see some of these horses coming off of long layoffs. Do you take a shot? I mean, if you've had a tough day and whatnot at that 20-1, you know, the 9 was one I just looked up immediately. You talk about the long layoff. Hasn't run since May. That was the last opportunity the horse really got a chance to run. Won. Francisco Arrieta board and a huge number. It seems like these Arkansas bred races sometimes just throw a price in there, throw a big long shot at him.
It's not a bad strategy. And listen, this horse is less exposed than a lot of his rivals because only has 2 starts with the 1 win. But that was going longer. Yeah, I think it's interesting. These races to me are just the toughest handicapping conundrum.
Sure.
Al's Romeo ran at Oaklawn 7 times last season. 0 wins. I just have a hard time taking it at this short of a price. I'm going to give the 1 on the inside a little bit of a look. Lightly raced horse who draws inside, who has a back race that could be good enough, has some excuses in the races that haven't gone well. So I'm going to go with the 1 Landlord.
JK is on the 1.
I'll take the 2. Brahms Image always runs good at Oaklawn. And watch out of the gate what Paul talked about. This horse usually leaves. When the gates open, he's usually in front.
And we'll see if Paul gets him home there with the 5 holding pattern. Matt Dinnerman, one final time from Oaklawn and their 10th.
We're ready to go in the finale. And we're off. Good break for all the runners. Landlord on the inside hustled along to show speed. Brahms Image a little bit quicker, though. He's quarter-horsed out of there, and Brahms Image has the lead early on. Dicey Wager takes second. Landlord will take hold and sit third in the run up the back stretch. Myria Coincidence, already shown more rain in the 4th spot, is running 4 lengths off the pace, a half length to the favorite Al's Romeo. Choctaw Zip right behind them. Then Where's Randy? Chrome's Echo to the inside, a gap of 2 to Snuck in Snow. Debater inside of him. Cybertown is second to last, and Holding Pattern at the back of the field kept well off the rail with 3 furlongs to go. The leader, Brahms Image, up top, 3/4 of a length. Dicey Wager second. Myria Coincidence, a joint second, getting closer. Landlord on the inside. Now he's asked to go on the fence, and he's moving level second, tipping into the 2 path of the stretch drive. He's in with a shot. Landlord at the top of the lane. Brahms Image cuts the corner. Landlord has a clear path to run him down if he's good enough. Myria Coincidence is third. Al's Romeo plummeting to the back of the field. Down the outside, Cybertown's rushing on late. Brahms Image kicks away. Brahms Image 2 lengths ahead. Here comes Chrome's Echo from out of the clouds, and Chrome's Echo is gobbling up ground at 29-1, and Chrome's Echo got it. Chrome's Echo springs the upset in the nightcap. Brahms Image was second, and a good go for the Shodo.
And it was the 9 getting up there in the final strides. Big long shot, big number. Francisco Arrieta. Get right back there at Oaklawn Park.
Yeah, Chris Griffin pointing this one out at a huge number. To run down the horse that I liked a little bit, the 2.
Brahms Image.
Brahms Image.
That's
but
right.
a great call, and what a great ride by Francisco Arrieta, too. Found the rail, weaved his way through the field, and came out and finished.
Fun to be with you guys. We're getting set to get out of here. JK, Richie, myself, we're getting out of here. We saw the 8th race from Oaklawn, which we saw a nice performance in there from Ricardo Santana Jr. Got the job done on the front end with Osborne right to the winner's circle and getting the job done there for trainer Ron Moquette. And then, of course, we saw Spirit win. Get back to her dominant form, winning a stakes race, winning the Poinsettia at Oaklawn. We'll be back tomorrow, right back here with more great racing action on America's Day at the Races.